All right. The time now is 12:37 p.m. How's everybody doing? This is a spontaneous stream. Let me just check to see that audio is actually playing here. So I'm just going to go ahead, have a look at this just to make sure that you can hear me. Audio is actually playing. Fantastic. Okay, so we're going to go into the topic you see right here, which is Justice League and its special meaning. And by and large, you know the theme here, but I'm going to talk a little bit more about this theme in a little bit more detail, elucidating it. And you guys always can leave your comments in the chat section right across there. Leave your comments in the chat section across there. Some of you guys are at work and you're watching this video. Some of you guys are on vacation and you're watching this video. So let's get into it. Let's start off always with a piece of scripture, and piece of scripture today is somewhat of an interesting one. So I'm going to read it. It comes from Psalms 119 once again, verses 121 onwards. And let's get into it, all right? It says, I have done, you know what's weird? I just wanted to make this observation. I actually take off my glasses to read this stuff. And then I put it back on to watch the video. It's crazy, isn't it? But anyway, I'm short-sighted, by the way. I have done judgment and justice. Leave me not to my oppressors. Be a sure word for your servant, and don't let the proud oppress me. My eyes fail for your cleansing, and for the word of your righteousness. And let me stop right there. There's a lot of things that David is saying here. The first thing he's saying is that I am the guy who is a judge. I actually, I'm responsible for executing justice and equity. And then he goes on to say, don't let me fall into the hands of my oppressors. And he's not talking about physical oppressors. He's talking about pride taking over him, the spirit, virtues, values, which can oppress a person's spirit, keep them in a cage, and keep other people under oppression. So he's talking about anger, fury, hatred, that kind of stuff. But instead, be a sure word for your servant for good. Don't let the proud oppress me. Again, the proud here is not something external to David. He's talking about his own thoughts, getting too puffed up, too proud, and therefore making him do terrible things with the power and the responsibilities that he has. So that's why he says, be a sure word for your servant for good. He's talking about, please keep that spirit that you have with me upon me. He says, my eyes fail for your cleansing. What he means by that is, at times I'm not seeing purely and cleanly. And so I need to get cleansed. I need to see the things in the right perspective. And he goes on and says, for the word of your righteousness. He says, I'm falling short of what you say and the righteousness, the goodness of what you say. So help me. All right. So I just wanted to leave that right there. And this was one man speaking personally, introspecting himself, evaluating himself, looking in on himself, and constantly reevaluating himself. And as a result, he's realizing when he's slipping. And here he feels like he's slipping, and he wants God to hold him, sustain him, and keep him going forward, okay, in the right way and excelling in that way. Now, what does that have to do with Justice League? A lot of stuff. And what I'm going to share with you with Justice League is really, it gives you a perspective on God that's not a singular perspective. What I mean by that is, a lot of us think of God as a singular entity, either external to us or within us. But God is not singular as you think. In fact, spiritual qualities or spiritual essence is not really numerical, to be honest with you. But we're going to talk in terms of numerology to be able to really bring forth and elucidate, that is to make clear to us spiritual things, that spiritual things are actually shared amongst people. All right. So let's get into it. Let's talk about that. Remember, you can chat in the chat section right here. Some of you guys might want to join the Hangout. Just indicate to me that you want to join the Hangout, and I will put you there in the Hangout. But I'm not going to keep the link up very long. Okay. All right, let's get into what we want to talk about today. I'll try and pop in and out as is necessary so that we all can get a fair share of uh, what this video is all about. So, Justice League, what really was it, and what makes it different from every other comic book movie before it, and even the comic book movies that have come after it? Well, Justice League was a follow-up of the ending of Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice. Remember, this is the Dawn of Justice part was at the end of Batman v Superman, if you do remember. It wasn't in the beginning. It wasn't in the middle. And so Zack Snyder very brilliantly actually introduced Justice League to us at the end of Batman v Superman. And there was some very interesting words that Bruce Wayne said throughout from the ending of Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, into Justice League. And there are actually 3 parts to this. And so I just want to go through it with you guys. And hopefully you'll appreciate how this plays into what we just read from the prophet David as he was speaking to the Lord about holding on to his goodness and not succumbing to oppressive spirits like pride and hatred and so on. So if you look at the ending of Justice League here, you see that Bruce Wayne is with Diana. They are at the funeral of Superman. Well, he was not called Superman here. It's Clark Kent, Clark's funeral. And Bruce Wayne, he turns to Diana and he says, "Help me find the others like you." And later on he says, "We have to stand together." He goes on to say, "We as human beings fight, we kill, or people of the earth. We betray one another, but we can rebuild. We can do better. We will. We have to." And so this is the beginning. This is the inception. This is the spark. These particular words are the dawn of justice. We got introduced to some of the players. We got a glimpse of them in cameos. And then now we are getting at least the initial founding member players. And now we get the official dawn of the Justice League, which begins here, where Bruce Wayne literally contacts Diana. And now he's looking to form a league, to build something together. And he talks about rebuilding, so that there is implied in the word rebuilding that there was a coming together of a team or a league before what we know as an age of heroes. And we will learn about all of that in Justice League. But I want to just follow Bruce's statements throughout the end of BVS into Justice League. And another pivotal statement that we had, which is very interesting, was after Bruce and Diana had assembled the others like Diana, Bruce ends up coming to another conclusion when he finds out there's a possibility for bringing back Superman. He says this. He says, "We are not enough. Each of us in our own way is held back." And then he goes on a little later on when he's speaking to Alfred to say the world needs Superman and the team needs Clark. And it's very interesting because even after Diana helps him find the others like her with special abilities, and they form this league together, it was not enough. In fact, we remember earlier on in an incident in Justice League that Bruce says, when he says, "How many of you are there?" He says, "Not enough." And it's interesting when Bruce said that. It pretty much epitomized something that was very important. And I'm going to carry it across to, I'm going to move out of this for a minute, and I'm going to go across to over here. Hold on a second here. I'll have to get past Alice Stone stuff here, right here. And in this instant here, we see the League. And this league is not complete. It is not enough. And we see a reflection of this league in many different other forums, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But here is the league. Yeah, Batman now assembled, Wonder Woman, the Flash, Cyborg, and Aquaman. But it's not enough. It's not enough to save the world. And it's interesting because you can't save the world alone, basically emphasizes on the fact that the League could not save the world by itself without Superman. And Superman here is shown in this detailed iconography, which is beautifully done. He's like the absence here. And so even this League here is not sufficient to save the world. And you can see Flash pointing to Superman, both his symbol and also his silhouette. He's absent. I find that very interesting. And in many depictions of the League without Superman, and I think even the audience, I remember when the promotion of Justice League was going on, a lot of people were like, but where's Superman? And everybody was talking about where's Superman? And it was designed, the whole advertising campaign was designed to make you ask that question, because the League is incomplete without Superman. And so this theme now goes even bigger, in that it's not just assembly of all of people, but assembly of important people. Remember, all of these characters symbolize some attribute of the human psyche. Batman is supposed to be justice. Aquaman is supposed to be, or balance and relationship between the sea and the land. Cyborg is our relationship with technology. The Flash is our relationship with time. Wonder Woman represents love. But something was still missing. An ingredient was still missing. Right? And it's interesting that that's what this initial poster is saying. It's saying it's an incomplete poster. And to me, that signal was really awesome. And then we see here, this is the Super Friends grouping with the Adam West looking Batman. And it's very interesting that, again, the blue Batman, see the blue Batman, here again, the blue Batman. See the bluish tinge here. And again, this is more black, but he has a blue clothing. And I find that these are all shots out to the blue and black Batman. But what's very interesting is whether you have the depiction from Super Friends, which is SF, as you can see, Justice League Super Friends, or if you're talking about JL 2001, the Justice League, or Justice League Unlimited, or if you're even talking about the Lego Justice League, no matter which one you're talking about, they're incomplete without Superman. You know, he is pivotal to at least completing the startup of the League. So all up to that point is still the dawn of justice, until Superman has finally joined the League. And I find that just really awesome. And I just wanted to point that out. I'll come back to this, of course, in a minute. So here we see that Bruce Wayne is saying that they're not enough. Now, why that's important is because the scripture I just read, which is what David is talking about, and staying in God, involves also support. And as a body of Christ, we have that. We have Jesus. Jesus is like Superman. Before that, we were scattered to the four corners. There were some of us who had the Spirit and so on. But now we have this opportunity to actually put things together in such a manner that with Jesus there, now we truly can have that inbuilt goodness inside of us. And not only that, between us. And numbers do matter in that respect. It gives us a better understanding of the Spirit. When one person can confirm that it's the Spirit speaking because the person is speaking in the same Spirit as we are, then it confirms that the Spirit is with us. And the more people that do that is the more we know the Spirit's there. And so I find that very interesting. But here, Bruce Wayne is saying it's not enough. We're not enough to defeat this threat. Each of us in our own ways held back. And so Superman is important. Now, when Superman joins the League there and they defeat Steppenwolf, you would think that we can rebuild. Was that it has been completed? Did they rebuild something? But no, it's not so. In fact, remember Bruce Wayne's statement from Batman v Superman, where he says we can rebuild. Okay, we can do better. We can rebuild. We will. We have to. Well, here is the final. Here's the final result of that. And here we see Bruce Wayne actually. He's thinking of rebuilding Wayne Manor. Let me just bring this a little closer. All right, there you go. And here he is. And he's come down to Old Wayne Manor, which has been broken down for a while, and he's seeing now the vision. He has the hope of it. After talking with Clark and Superman and getting back their home, and also being able to defeat Steppenwolf and sort of save the world and all those things. Now he's looking at Wayne Manor, and he's there. And he looks at Alfred. He says, how big do you think this room is? 150 feet? Alfred's like, maybe. And then he says, big round table, 6 chairs right there. The initial founding members, 6 chairs right there. But then Diana comes up. And this time, Diana's contribution is in line with what Bruce Wayne is thinking of. Before that, Diana has always been in conflict with Bruce Wayne. Diana has always been talking either about, I don't want to put these people in harm's way. We don't even know them. She went on to clash with him about bringing back Superman. In the very beginning in BVS, she was like, suppose these people don't want to be found. She's always been clashing with Bruce Wayne up until this point, where Bruce Wayne has a vision and Diana adds to it and says, but room for more. Diana Prince, or Diana of Themyscira, Princess Diana of Themyscira, is for the first time added to what Bruce Wayne is saying. And what's very interesting about that is Bruce Wayne echoes her sentiments by saying, but room for more. See, the rebuilding of Wayne Manor symbolized the rebuilding of the Justice League. It had now been born, and now it was being rebuilt. The Age of Heroes being rebuilt. And that's basically an answer. And that's why I like Justice League so much. It's an answer to the initial statement. It's the fulfilling of the prophecy that Bruce Wayne said. He said, but we can rebuild. We can do better. We will. We have to. That's the answer to it, which is seen in Justice League. So here, while they're going through the rebuilding process as well and forming the foundation for the Justice League, Bruce Wayne realizes they need more. Now, it's not Bruce Wayne saying that they need more, but it's Diana now speaking out and saying, we need more. And so we need room for more, but room for more than just 6 founding members. Now we have room for more members of the Justice League, which leads the Justice League to be almost infinite. And let me show you what I'm talking about. And we've seen it already in the Cartoon Network where the Justice League is out there, Justice League Action. But I want to show you something a little bit more. What does that mean? So we have the founding 6 members here now. Okay, bring this in a little bit. Okay, so we have the founding 6 members here. All right. And now, you can't save the world alone goes beyond these 6 members. It's broader than that. And it's almost a multiplication effect. And I'm going to read some scripture to show you how that's based on that. So now they have their Christ figure, the Messiah, the symbol of hope in there. Now the potential for the Justice League is actually limitless. Justice, true justice and judgment is now limitless. And so the spectrum of DC characters and new DC characters can be created to form the League. And sometimes, as it says here in the annotation, sometimes even the villains join the Justice League. Sometimes they're even part of it because they're working for justice. They may just pop in and pop out, but the point is, and we've seen it with Catwoman, the point is the Justice League is now beyond just some founding members. It goes beyond that. Anyone who is seeking justice and working towards justice is this league. And that scripture that I read to you in Psalms plays into this so very nicely, because listen to what it says. Leave me not to my oppressors. Now the oppressor is going to be the one to try to limit this league to certain members. The oppressor is the one who is the antagonist, or the person who works against it. The Shatan, the satanic figure. Satan just means against God or against good. And so even in Justice League, the movie, we've seen that Diana at times and Aquaman at times, or Arthur Curry at times, were antagonists towards the moving forward of the League and the progress of the League. But now Diana is for the progress of the League, and there are no limits as to who can join the League, because they are now accommodating for more members, which is why Justice League, the end of Justice League, where she says room for more, actually appeals to the opening and the introduction of the Justice League in the beginning, when we see all of these characters. Some of them are villains, like the Joker here, uh, like uh, Black Adam. You know, we've got a bunch of them here. We got a bunch of them. You know, Harley Quinn plays it both ways. Poison Ivy is a villain. Sometimes she's not. She's like an anti-hero. Okay, we got some of the Red Lanterns here. All right, but we also have the founding members here. We got Cyborg, the Flash, Wonder Woman, Superman, Batman, Aquaman. We even have a Green Lantern here. We got Nightwing. We got a bunch of Green Lanterns around. We got Green Arrow. We got Hawk Girl. We got Hawkman. We got Batgirl. You know, we got all these characters here. The Robin, Robin in the back there. You know, Supergirl in the back there. A whole ton of them. Okay, and that's the exciting thing about this. We even have Darkseid in the back here with the Omega symbol. You know, we got Black Martian Manhunter, the Joker, you know, like another Lantern, and so on and so on and so on. And the point is, I think this is Deadshot right here. All right, Poison Ivy and so on. The point is, at some point in time, some of these members of the League would actually, some of these people will actually join up with the League and work together with the League against some worse evil. Black Spectre, I think I see Silk Spectre somewhere. And the point is, that's the same thing with the body of Christ. It's almost limitless how many people can actually join. And by joining, you can see more of God, because it's more interactions. And then we see the oneness of mind when people are looking to do good, because God is all about good. And when you can see good more, the more people involved, the more you see God. And that's why I want to show you guys that God is actually visible in other human beings like yourself, and even in his nature. And you can see God more amongst people who actually want to be good and want to serve him and want to have his spirit in them doing good all the time. You see God even more and more and more with the more people that work for goodness and do goodness. And so that's the paradigm shift I wanted to show you guys. What makes Justice League a little bit different to all of the other comic book movies I've seen is not only the potential for numerosity, but the messages. This theme about you cannot save the world alone is a theme that I haven't seen in other movies like that. People coming from other worlds. If you look at the MCU, for instance, or even the X-Men universe, yes, all of these characters have their own. Sometimes they had, well, in the case of the MCU, they have had their own movies, like Captain America, and Iron Man, and Thor. Have had their own movies, right? And yes, you can see that some of them have come from different worlds. Like Thor has come from a completely different world. Captain America came from a different time, and Iron Man, you know, he had the suit thing going on, and he was you know, his world was one where he was dealing with the corporate world. Okay, fine. But at the end of the day, nothing so explicitly and clearly stated as how Superman is this Kryptonian that comes from a Kryptonian world, has to socialize himself on Earth. So you know he's otherworldly. And not only that, but now you see that he has to choose if he wants to be with Earth or not. Wonder Woman, same thing. She chooses to be with mankind, just that she has to refine her objective about how she deals with mankind. She learns she's not the savior of mankind. She's a facilitator, but man can only be saved by love. When you look at Batman, he's the most interesting because he starts off, we are introduced to him, we see his idealistic values, and then they are corrupted, and they're challenged, and he's more tending towards becoming a villain, and then he's redeemed. So his world was world of our world. He reflected our world, how we would feel about somebody coming to our space and creating controversy from another world or from outside of our circle. And so I find that there's a meaningful coming together with these people, especially in the wake of the death of Superman. And then these new characters with sad backgrounds, and Flash trying to prove his father's innocence, but he's struck by lightning as a special gift. His world is a little bit different from, say, Batman or the other people's world, because he's not very experienced. And on top of that, you can feel the tragedy that his world is involved in. And he doesn't have much friends because he's moved through time. When you look at Aquaman, again, another isolated guy out there, lots of abilities, lots of skills, but he feels like he doesn't belong either place, the land or the sea. Again, very difficult past. You look at Cyborg with a tragic way of beginning. It's almost out of the flames of hell he's coming out, and he doesn't even know what he is. And these kinds of coming together are so meaningful because they represent people in the actual world with all these unlimited potential, yet they don't know how they fit in and how they can play their roles until someone else comes and impacts and influences them and shapes them. Very deep, meaningful stories. I'll give you an example. Cyborg represents those with disabilities. He represents people who are minorities. He represents people with unlimited potential, but yet who use technology and don't know how to use, say, for instance, the internet to bring people together, to strengthen bonds, to help people really become inspired to do better every single day. But because they're a minority, they feel they're crippled. But actually, it's a blessing. You know, like Cyborg said, gifts. What gifts are you talking about? Well, you have a lot of gifts because you can do things that no one else can. And each one of you out there can do things no one else can. I find these movies so beautiful because they literally teach values on how to create community. And community is by people working together, people with their unique abilities, their special abilities. And so Cyborg represents those people. You know, you look at Wonder Woman, she represents the people with heart and work out of love and compassion, but yet they know that if they have to implement something, they have to implement it to the end. You look at Superman, these are the inspirator guys, the guys who give people hope. They're the, you know, pep talks, speeches, the coaches, the guides, you know, the people who try to inspire other people. You look at Batman, and these are the people who want the truth. They want people, they don't like the inequalities that happen in the world, the inequities, but yet at times they can be xenophobes. They can become paranoid. And we've seen it in America, you know, the fear of other ethnicities and other people and other cultures taking over. Batman epitomizes that. You have to see that this group of people coming together are people right there in the United States of America, people right in the world, people from different angles. You even have the Islamic people who are considered terrorists. Batman kind of represents that. He's kind of like a terrorist in this movie, where he's looking to try and get revenge. He's trying to bring equality and balance and judgment, but in such a way that he's cruel and bitter, and he's almost like a terrorist, you know. And it's so strange that Lex Luthor represents the true terrorists out there with the bombing, and yet, you know, Batman is influenced by them and inspired by Lex Luthor's violent rhetoric. And even though this guy, he really should be going for the force for good, he's ending up moving across it. And I'm saying this represents demographics of people. And I know that some of the white folk in America, even the poor white folk and other people in America, can identify with Batman, because Batman is really their predicament. It's not that they're bad people. It's that sometimes they're so afraid that, you know, there'll be a takeover and we won't no longer be the majority. And what kind of world would we have then? Oh, this could be the greatest threat to us and our way of life. I can understand these things, because if you pitch it through Batman's eyes, it makes sense. And a lot of you guys side with Batman. Some of you said he should have killed Superman, and you were disappointed that he didn't kill Superman. I know some of you bloodthirsty people. I know how you think. But at the end of the day, you're not bad people per se. It's just that you so identify strongly with what is happening with Batman, and you actually see the metaphor, even though you may not consciously see it, you identify with it, the same metaphor where you're trying to get out these immigrant people, get out these minority groups, like so-called minority groups, because what your perception of them is and the stereotypes of them, you think is bad for you. And you think that the way of life that you have is going to change because of them. And you think it's changing because of them. You think, I was listening to a guy, William Adams. Shout out to William Adams. He was talking about how these immigrants, these people coming into Scotland and taking jobs of other people. No one can take another person's job. Let me give you guys a head up. Let me give you guys a heads up. I'm a self-employed person. I'm a businessman. I want to tell you this: no one can take your job from you. What can happen is you can lose your job to somebody else who's more capable. But here's the thing you need to learn. In competition, you always have to up your game. And so if you get in competition for jobs, it just means you have to up your game. And if you can't do that and you lose your job, guess what? You're more than that. You're better than that. Maybe it's a blessing in disguise for you to start your own business. Start your own business. I'm a guy, I left teaching. I was a school teacher. Okay. I was a college. I used to aid college students in studying their work in sciences. Okay. I was in the science stream. I'm an art. I love art and I love science. Okay. And suffice it to say, I left that to go do business because I thought that I just didn't like how the workplace was. A lot of you out here are on the internet. Of all places in the world, you can actually get to make money on the internet. There are so many opportunities, but you have to know which opportunities to make, which ones are good for you, and how do you monetize that. All right, I've made money on the internet already. A number of different ways. I've sold things on the internet. I've done business on the internet. I've done ads for people in different parts of the world. I've done songs for people in different parts of the world. And I'm in a third world country. What is considered a third world country? If I can do it, you can do it too. Now, if you don't have internet access in this day and age, it's okay. Then let me tell you what you do. The same principles on the internet. You take something that your community needs, whether it's water, whether it's food. Selling food is almost a guarantee. And you don't have to sell it to your people. You can figure out a way to export your stuff out of your state or out of your little town, or go to marketplaces, big marketplaces with your stuff. If you're farming doesn't cost a whole bunch of money. You don't have to do it on a large scale. You can go in your backyard, farm a couple of things, and take that stuff and go to the nearest town or village or whatever and sell them. In short, what I'm telling you is you can do whatever you want to do, but you cannot save the world alone, and you can't do it alone. You need help and support, and you will need people around you. So look for like-minded people around you. Surround yourself with those people, and then push on forward. Look at me. I have an outlet on the internet. I know that what I see on Facebook, the views I see on Facebook, there are a lot more views than that I get. And I know I get to all kinds of people, both in the industry and as well as people outside of the industry. And why I tell you these movies matter is because when you think you are crippled, when you think you are weak, that's when you're the strongest. You just don't know it yet. You do not know that sometimes what you consider an unfortunate incident is actually a blessing. You just don't see it until you make that step. The greatest joy in your life, even though it may be difficult, is to be in full control of your life by running your own business, that you'll live and die by it. It's rougher than working for someone because the consequences are direct. But I'll tell you this. You'll live, and you really live, when you work for yourself and you give direct service or products or whatever you do to other people. A lot of people give up. And I've seen people, much older people, who don't think they have the will or strength to do it, but you have the know-how, you have the brain. All you got to do is harness the manpower sometimes. And so form partnerships with people who can do the things, can actually do your ideas, and work out the partnership so you get a piece of it. Trust me, plans can be laid out. And if you guys need my help and support, and you may not be working right now, and you're trying to figure out what to do, I will lend my services. I will lend myself to you. But I want you to know one thing. You can't be lazy out here. You can't sit back on your laurels and expect things to happen. You have to go out there and do something. And the God that we serve, he works 24/7, and he knows it all. He knows how to run this joint. You can do anything. And sometimes you have to go backdoor because you don't have enough resources to legally register your company. And so you have to do it sort of, as we say, black market or underground, but you're still doing something legitimate for yourself. You're not selling drugs, you're not selling dope, but you're doing legitimate things. You just don't have the license to do it yet. So you start to share it around your friends and family, go out that side of that circle, and you work. The best people in the world are business people and entrepreneurs. I'll tell you why. You guys determine the economy of your place. You set the tone for how your village will work. And if business is interested in the citizens of the area, it's better than even a government being interested, because governments are run by business. Think about what I'm saying. Not just in a capitalistic society, but any society. The business determines how successful a government can be, economically speaking. And if your town and village was depending, for instance, on coal, let me tell you something, guys. as much as the big companies may have rolled out of there, if the coal's still there, you can start getting that coal into bags. And you can start selling coal on a smaller scale. You may not have the big engines and stuff, but whatever is there, you can start garnering it on a smaller scale. You can use innovation and create your own little machines. There's somebody in your community who's a genius at MacGyvering things. For those of you who don't know, MacGyver used to take not optimum tools and stuff and make other tools out of them. If your industry depended on coal, you can take some of the coal and you can use it as fertilizer. Mix the coal up with some of the soil and stuff and use it as fertilizer to farm some of your crops. So maybe you're not burning the coal anymore. But if you got still huge coal mines there, then that coal can be used for other things, maybe green things. So you still dig out the coal, but this time you're going to use the coal for something else. And coal can be used for other things besides just burning and fuel and heat. And then you can keep back some of the coal. And instead of having electromagnetic radiation from heaters, you can make your own little coal furnaces, and you can use the coal to cook, barbecue, and heat your homes because you got an excess of coal. Why would you go out there and need to get electricity? And you can even make electricity from coal because they make electricity from oil. So you guys can maybe do clean energy by facilitating electricity for certain parts of the states or even beyond other states. I'm just saying that you guys have to see what you have. And don't tell yourselves, I need a company to come into your village and your town. You know, from way back in the slave trade and way back in the sugarcane industry, we are from the Caribbean. It's always been that the first world nations would live off the small world nations. And when they moved out, the small world nations would say, well, we can't sustain ourselves anymore because we need the first world nation's economy and money to keep things. They'll always exploit you. But if you band together as a group, and even if they say they ban coal as a fuel, you still can use coal for many other things. You band together as a team. Pull yourselves together. Which of you can read. If you can't read, find an audiobook or something and learn about how you can use coal for multiple things. Those people in the coal places. Because you can, if you're rich in a resource and you need to use it, find other ways to utilize it. See, it's always possible. It's just that it's not at the tip of your conscious brain right now. But you guys, I don't care if you never went to school. I don't care how old you are. You can do it. I have seen people who are disabled, crippled, only have stumps, and they're moving around, giving inspirational speeches, and doing all kinds of things from skydiving to otherwise. You have limbs. You may be old. You may be 92 years old. You may have rheumatism. You may have all that stuff going for you, arthritis and stuff, but you're alive. You have a mouth. You can talk. If you're not in a coma, you can tell people things, give them knowledge of how to go about doing things, the insight into how you may be able to fulfill your dreams and aspirations and visions. And if you guys just work together, you can do anything. It really is true. It's not easy. It never is. Sometimes you'll be discouraged and you want to give up, but you can do it. Some of you may pass away before you see it happen, but it can be done. And that's the spirit we need to have. And so I just wanted to share this video with all you guys out there. I think it's something I'm very passionate about, empowering people and seeing them live to their full potential, which is limitless. But just to be on that limitless track is an awesome thing. And that's why I try to put this stuff out on the airwaves. And I believe the Justice League epitomizes that. It's not just these great heroes up on a pedestal like most superhero movies are with, they can do this and they can do that and they got these powers and they got this special. No, these movies, Justice League, Batman v Superman, Man of Steel, they go deeper than that. They deal with the flawed people, the flawed characters. You know, I listen to some people talk about the MCU. You know, they have flawed characters in a superficial way, yes. But in a meaningful, deep way, Justice League really digs into it. These people who have a past, difficult past, which is not made fun of, which we can all identify with in some way, shape, or form. And that's why they need to work together. Those are the kinds of movies I look at. Star Trek, not Star Trek, sorry, Star Wars, The Last Jedi. They delve into that as well. People who are oppressed, especially that Asian girl's story about how they were wiped out and oppressed and enslaved. And our hope comes to them. And they're still in slavery, but the hope for these little kids inspires them. And that's the key. And that's why You Can't Save the World Alone is a beautiful scene. A very beautiful scene. And working together is not easy either. You have to find people to work together with to move forward. And sometimes the people initially that you found that you thought were best suited to work together, or were the only people who work together, they may sometimes go against what you want, your dreams and aspirations. Batman had to strive and debate and struggle with Wonder Woman before she really fully came on board. She was a hesitant helper of Bruce, Diana. But in the end, she's the one suggesting even bigger ideas. And you get the multiplication effect, guys. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. I think Justice League is a very special movie. I think so. I think even though we're going to have a Zack Snyder cut, I think the message has been sent. I think it's really clear what this movie was all about. And that's why there's no way I can say this was a bad movie and I can knock it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and my time I shared with you. It's now 1:19 in the day. And I hope you guys are having a good time. Let's see what's going on in the chat section. I see we have some viewers up here. And maybe some of you guys have started talking to me. Yes, R2 Lebanon. And the computer is open. And that means I'm here now. 36 minutes into the stream. All right, man. R2, let me get you up on the stream very quickly. Nice to have you, R2, by the way. Nice to have you. Ooh, somebody actually disliked my video. That's crazy. That's crazy. That's insane right there. Somebody actually disliked this video. This video is talking all kinds of positive things. They actually dislike it. Maybe they made a mistake. Maybe they made a mistake. Hold on a second. Let me get that link to you, R2, here. And it's so nice to be able to talk to people from all over the world via the internet. It's so powerful. Things you just could never do without a whole lot of money. You can do almost for free via the internet. Let me get the link for you, R2. Yeah, someone actually disliked this video. I can't understand why you would want to dislike a video like this. Which is very positive, but I mean, it's freedom of speech. Different people have it. All right, just put the link in there, R2. So if you got a second. Okay, we have 2 likes, two more likes than that guy who disliked it. It's all good. You got it there?
Yep.
All right, my dude. Okay, I'm removing this link. Anybody else who wants to join the Hangout, I really enjoy having all you guys in the Hangout. I really enjoy having you right now, R2. It's a special privilege to have you on this stream. So without further ado, I'm introducing everyone here, viewers, to R2 Lebanon, also known as Arthur. In English, in Finnish, it would be R2. It's really cool. I like to call you R2 though. I prefer that. You know, you remind me of R2D2. I always remember R2D2. That's how I remember your name. Yeah. So
I think actually.
Yeah. So welcome. We were just talking about Justice League and a special meaning, but of course you can talk about any topic you so choose to talk about in the DCU at this point in time.
Okay.
So I'm sorry. So what do you think about let's just get into the topic right here. Shazam seems to be spoofing everything we see in BVS and Justice League. I haven't seen him spoof something in Man of Steel yet, but I'm sure he's gonna come around to it. What do you think about that?
Well, I suppose that could go well in hand with it being a kid character. Well, they said the motto that Billy Batson is supposed to be 13 or 16-year-old. So a kid would point and laugh at some of those things. But that wouldn't make it a Deadpool copy, as a couple of people have been comparing it. That's
You would really, yeah, you would expect somebody young like that to do something like that, spoof things, and that was David Sandberg's stuff. And I like how he's up in the sky. You only hear the drink going in his mouth. It's really funny. The clash with Batman and Superman, and he's there watching with a drink, and that's really funny, man. Shazam should be interesting. I would like to see where they're going with that. But in terms of Justice League, and you haven't seen Star Wars: The Last Jedi, have you?
Yeah, I have seen it.
You seen it?
Yeah, I saw it already in December. I have a picture of myself with next to a stormtrooper like this.
Oh, sick!
And I'm actually taller than the stormtrooper. It's something like this.
Wow. How tall are you?
About 1 meter and 93 centimeters, I guess.
1 meter.
It's been a long time since I had my weight. I mean, my height measured.
Let me see what that is in feet. 1 meter. You said 93 centimeters? That in feet is, translate that to feet, please. Oh. Okay, 2 feet. Wait. Yeah, there you go. Oh, you're 6'3". Dang, you're tall, man. I'm 6 feet tall. I'm 6 feet tall. I'm not super tall. I'm 6 feet tall. You like tall like my cousins. They're tall.
Yeah, it's something like that I have been told about as I grew up. I was a fat kid back then, and then from the 4th grade and up to 6th grade, I was told that my weight turned into height.
Wow! So you just shut up in the air.
Pretty much. Also they told me. In retrospect, I mean, I did also during the last year. I have also been looking at my weight and trying to lose it as much as possible.
Oh, don't lose too much. Trust me. Don't lose too much of your body weight.
Yeah, I know. No, it was just in comparison. Also in Facebook, I when the Last Jedi came out, I posted the 2 pictures. One from Rogue when I had gone to see Rogue One at the December of 2016, and the Last Jedi was back next to each other. And you can see the clear the difference on how much my stomach has gotten more stable, and the weight has come out of my face. Also, I grew a beard between that time.
That's cool, man. That's cool. So you shaved down some of the beard too. Let me ask you about. That's a good question. I want to ask you a really good question. It has nothing to do with the DCU right now, but it has to do with Star Wars. You saw The Force Awakens, Rogue One, and The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
Of course, Rogue One is way before The Force Awakens. It's way. I mean, it's
it's supposed to take us just before the New Hope.
The New Hope, right? Now, what do you think of The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi? Do you think they follow each other really nice and smoothly? I'm just curious as to what you would think as a Star Wars fan. Because I'm not really a Star Wars fan. I'm more of I just like movies. So
yeah, well, to be fair, back when The Force Awakens came out, I was not that much anticipating it. My general idea of Star Wars was that we had the original trilogy, then came the prequel trilogy, and Revenge of the Sith led to the beginning of the birth of the Empire. I thought that so that circle had closed by then.
Okay.
Then and I thought that also I thought that there wouldn't have been any need to make any more of those more trilogies or movies. But it rapidly slowly it went out, grew up, and also as a Finnish person, I was also kind of intrigued to learn that the alien language spoken in Force Awakens was created by Sarah Forsberg, who is a Finnish person. She became famous by basically making a video of herself in different languages. And also the new body double of the actor playing Chewbacca, Jonas Suotamo, is also Finnish.
Okay, so I guess you had an interest in that. Some of the actors who
the Finnish investment in it made me think, okay, if they put themselves in there, I should probably watch it myself too. I went to see it with a friend. It was great on the first viewing. The second viewing, it kind of dragged for some reason. It's
but I think for me, when I first saw it, it wasn't quite the journey I expected. Let's just put it that way. It wasn't quite the journey I expected, but on looking at Force Awakens again, I kind of appreciated it a little bit more. The little intricacies inside of it that J.J. Abrams put in there. So I kind of appreciated it some. And then, as I was asking you, what do you think of The Last Jedi with respect to The Force Awakens? The Last Jedi is the second. This is the follow-up. It's the sequel of The Force Awakens. What do you think of that?
Well, I agree with some complaints that overuse of comedy did a little hindrance to it, like the interaction between Poe Dameron and General Hux in the beginning. That's what's up. What I agree, was a little silly, and it pretty much made it the First Order look like basically to quote Maggie Smith when she was playing McGonagall, bouncing, prancing band of buffoons. I have to use that one. But in other ways, there were some good things in this too. Most people we have spoken about Rose Tico and well, she's a good kind of. Even if she didn't really bring her much, and some people might say she was useless. I think that if she would, it was a good also like the show that there are people in the war also who didn't like being in the war and so and otherwise they are there. I guess they will. She and her sister were there. Her sister who died in the beginning. She was shown well, probably the stronger one. She was and Rose herself was not and she got that some of her strength back by that. But and in that point, I can see those as positives. Right. But there are some complaints about her that I don't fully agree on them, but I can see their points.
Okay. Well, I wasn't talking necessarily individual. I was trying to talk about The Last Jedi with respect to The Force Awakens, the follow through on it. Did you see?
Well, in that case, I think we can see some disconnections from what J.J. Abrams did with The Force Awakens and the whole overall writing and directing that Rian Johnson did.
So why do you say there were disconnections? Because I don't really see much in the general scheme of things. I don't really see a disconnected flow. I actually see it flow into where now we're picking up where Rey now meets Luke Skywalker, where we ended the Force Awakens with, didn't it?
Yeah, that's actually that is one of those good things that can show that where it was coming from. And probably it was mandated because it was followed with the cliffhanger from Force Awakens. But there's also something about the power struggles and some elements with the First Order and the rebellion. Like the Starkiller base. We had the Starkiller base, which was basically Death Star 2 or 5.0 probably.
Yeah, because we basically saw the Death Star in Rogue
That,
formation of it.
yeah, but that was a blow against the First Order, and and considering how much time the cliffhanger from Rose and Luke, Rey and Luke was shown in the movie from between the movies, the First Order seemed like it picked itself up surprisingly quickly, and then there was also, and I think then there's the how much of a foothold the resistance slash rebellion had they were shown to be capable of that, but then they were shown to be pretty
pretty what?
underpowered in the when it comes to that. They had just the one fleet and the one base that the First Order was attacking at the beginning of The Last Jedi.
Yeah, but you remember? Okay. Remember, they tried to flee. What happened was it worked against them. They were trying to take down the Death Star or the whatever it was, and then they had to get out of there. So they tried to get out of there, and then they were chased and they were followed. And then when they were followed, now they had to put up a resistance. Remember, it wasn't all of the resistance necessarily there. They were trying to get away. You see, and so now they are backed up, and now the plan was really to go to the planet. They were going to try and sneak away to the planet, and that plan was foiled. And so they found themselves on this old base down in the planet with these old stuff, and they had to try and find a way out. In the end, it was basically what we learned is the Empire was like generally ahead of them. It was about to squash them, and they just managed to get away. That's basically the storyline in terms of what happens there. So it's still basically, to me, this movie takes different elements from, it takes elements from The New Hope, from Revenge of the Sith, and from The Last Jedi. From The Return of the Jedi. It takes little elements from those three trilogy elements in one film. I thought it was pretty interesting. So I found that little flow, whether basically the movie's basically a passing of the torch, pretty much, to this new generation of protagonists, and the hope is now very, very small. It's a spark of hope. So the movie kind of almost snuffs out all hope as you move along the movie. It gets more and more dire for these people. And what's so beautiful about that, in my opinion, is that as it gets more dire, they actually spring forth more and more little sprouts of hope. So it's like the hope actually is getting challenged, and because it's being challenged, it's getting bigger. I find that very interesting. Even when Rey is being manipulated by Snoke, when she's communicating with
Kylo Ren
or what's his name? Ben Solo, I think is his name. Ben Solo.
Yeah, Ben Solo was Kylo Ren's the character, son of.
Right, he's no longer Ben Solo, right? Ben Solo's dead. So he's completely now Kylo Ren. He's no longer Ben Solo. Forget about it. Unlike his father, he is pretty much made up his mind. He wants to go to the dark side, and that's where he's going. And well, there still probably is hope for him, because you heard Luke say, "See you around, kid." Remember he said that? So if he's saying "see you around, kid," you know what that means, right?
He's gonna come back. He's gonna come back as a Force ghost.
Absolutely, he's good. He's a Force ghost.
So
they're going to be influencing in the background, or watching, at least spectating from the background. And again, if you've watched the Clone Wars and you watch even Star Wars Rebels, if you even watch Star Wars Rebels, how the story's going, it's kind of like Star Wars Rebels in a way too. If you've been following Star Wars Rebels, it's sort of like that, where I forgot what's his name, Eli, or what his name? He lost his Jedi Master. He lost his. I don't know if you've been following it, but he lost. Kanan. He lost Kanan. Kanan's dead, right?
Yeah, I remember that.
Right, but Kanan's still around, right? You heard I forgot what the little guy's name is. He said, "See you around, Kanan," right? So you know, they know it's not over because you're dead. And so I'm really looking forward to the next Star Wars episode because I think they're gonna actually involve more of the Force Ghost in that one. And we may see Luke again. Who knows? We may see him again. So you never know. We're not gonna see. They may typecast somebody else for Princess Leia, or they may just say she died in between and pick up after she died or something. But you know, and I don't know too much about what's his name? The guy who was playing Solo.
Aiden Aldrich guy. I don't remember. I remember the guy's name, but I don't remember.
Harrison Ford, right? Harrison Ford. I don't know if we'll see him again. I doubt that.
He's probably. He had been asking for them to kill Han since.
He was trying to kill Han Solo for the longest while. Now we have a new actor who's playing Han Solo that's playing in theaters right now, and that's good for him. I mean, I don't know how it's going so far at the box office. I was never really enthusiastic to see the Han Solo movie after seeing.
Neither was I. But I posted a post on Twitter today about my opinion on the Solo movie, and there was this picture of Adam Jensen like this. I never asked for this.
Yeah, I mean, it's not something high on my priority list, but I will get around to watching it, or may even go and see it in the theater. Somebody was saying it was a pretty good movie, and you know, you can't judge a movie by its preview. I heard Ready Player One was pretty good as well, and I probably might need to go see that at some point in time as well. So it's just that I wasn't hyped to see it. You know, it's not like I was like, oh man, I gotta go and see this Han Solo movie. Han Solo, yeah. You know, people wanted to see a Han Solo movie for a long time, but I just think it got kind of murky when we had all this director stuff going on. It's terrible when you sort of know what's happening behind the scenes with a movie. It takes some of the steam out of you to want to go see it, which is bad. And you're really not giving the movie a chance to really see what kind of movie. It probably is a pretty good movie. I think Ready Player One is probably a very good movie as well. You know,
I had actually forgotten by this point that Ready Player One had been a thing. It came out this spring, and I had already forgotten about it until you just mentioned it. Of course.
Have you seen it?
No.
Okay, there you go. So then, you know, it was supposed to be a blockbuster. And you know what's the sad thing about these movies? These movies probably say a lot about, you know, what's happening around us. But yet, you know, the empty-ish, very empty movies, which are blockbusters because of the commercializing of them and the advertising bombarding your mind all the time. These are the movies that seem to make it always. And well, they're also forgotten eventually, but I mean, and that's the sad thing about blockbusters. So when you get a blockbuster that actually gets people to talk about it in a very positive way, affecting change, it's huge. So I will watch Ready Player One at some point in time. I may even buy the DVD for it if it's good. And also, this movie, Solo movie. I'm not really a big Star Wars fan. I'm not a Star Wars fan actually. So it you know, I never really felt like I would, oh yeah, I need to go see this Solo movie. And then of course Harrison Ford as Solo was like, you know, people always think of Han Solo as Harrison Ford, so it's kind of hard now for another actor to go and fill those shoes. So I feel as all that stuff was going on there. But I must say, if I go and see Han Solo movie and I see it's good, I'm gonna do a review on it, and I'll let you guys know that you should go and see it because of the intrinsic value. But anyway, I was just going back to that because I wanted to talk about Star Wars because Star Wars: The Last Jedi, I think, is I'm gonna say it, it's a masterpiece of a film. It is a masterwork, and in terms of film and in terms of story and what it's giving, I think it's a masterpiece of work. I know because of Luke Skywalker and how he was depicted primarily, most people are like turned off from it. They try to nitpick other things, but really it's the new Luke Skywalker element of it that they don't like. And I personally think that's how Luke would react to a situation if it was happening. And from my knowledge of Luke Skywalker, you know how he was kind of impetulant, sometimes a bit emotional and irrational about certain things. And as much as he was hopeful in the movie, you know, in Return of the Sith, and then Revenge of the Sith, and then Return of the Jedi, because he was hopeful. He didn't go across to the dark side, right? In spite of that, I think that he had those intrinsic qualities in him. If you were really paying attention to those earlier films, you would see that he was kind of impetulant. He was kind of impatient. He was kind of a guy who sometimes would jump to conclusions. And so when I saw him in The Last Jedi and he jumped to conclusions once again, he was going down the wrong line once again, even after all those years of being a Grandmaster Jedi and all of that. It's amazing to see Yoda kind of saying, hey, man, what are you doing again? What are you doing? You know, to me, that was just good. I loved it. I loved it. And then what Yoda points us to, he actually resets us while he's resetting Luke. And of course, a lot of people are like offended by that point, so they're not even receiving what's going on. And me, I'm always different. I always think outside the box, so I'm saying this is great. So while I'm saying this is great, some other people are like, God damn, that's not what Luke does, and he's not so pessimistic about things, and he's not talking about, oh, there's no hope and blah. And I'm like, why not? You know, I remember Anakin going into hiding after not Anakin, what am I saying? Obi-Wan Kenobi going into hiding because Anakin, in fact, I think Obi-Wan Kenobi had to kill Anakin, right? He thought Anakin was dead, right? He thought he killed him.
I have read some lore, or actually I have seen some lore videos on YouTube that say something like that, and covered something about the fact that when Obi-Wan learned that Anakin was still alive as Darth Vader,
he got out.
So he felt something in the Force. That was something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course Luke as Anakin, sorry, as Darth Vader, he could feel the Force and he could feel familiar figures and stuff so as well. And so it was really interesting because while I mean Anakin went into hiding for a different reason though. He went into hiding to protect Luke, right? That's why he went into hiding. But
the names again.
But Yoda went into hiding.
Yeah.
Yoda was a powerful dude. Why did he go into hiding? To save his skin, right? Because he abandoned all the other Jedi. He wasn't looking for the other Jedi. Was he now? Nobody remembers these things. Like, it's just convenient. So Luke goes into hiding now. And all of a sudden, Luke is, you know, he shouldn't do this. He's the great hope. But didn't Yoda?
There was something about that coverage on some reviewers' video that I watched. It was a hostile review about it, but I remember the point they were making in it.
And if I'm not mistaken, Yoda wasn't you know, ready to teach Luke either. He started off, and then I think Yoda decided he didn't want to teach Luke at a certain point. I remember that. In the swamp-like place. If I do remember, I can't remember if I'm remembering correctly. So it's just history repeating itself, if you ask me. Luke was a little bit more pessimistic because he had, you know, a monumental failure with. But then, which Jedi Master hasn't had monumental failures? Yoda's had it multiple times. Remember, one of his Padawans was Dooku.
Yeah, I remember Dooku. You know, there's a saying that I have come across in one of the games I've played. Those who ignore history are doomed to repeat it.
Exactly.
Meaning that the whole incident could have been avoided if they had remembered that this happened because of that, and you should have done something else.
And that's why I don't understand the Star Wars fans' outrage. I mean, they were outraged with Revenge of the Sith. For those people who don't know, back in the 80s, there was this big hullabaloo over that. And now they praise it as the greatest movie ever of the Star Wars franchise, which is really hilarious.
Revenge of the Sith. Revenge of the Sith was episode 4. Was episode
5.
3 that came out in 2005. I remember I was in the 9th or 8th grade back then.
The Empire Strikes Back?
No, that was episode 5. Empire Strikes Back.
I'm talking about Empire Strikes Back, not Revenge.
Okay, now you get it. Okay.
Revenge of the Sith was Darth Vader's rise, right? Okay.
Yeah.
The Empire Strikes Back is what I'm talking about. Sorry, my bad. In the 80s, that's right. Revenge of the Sith was in the 2000s.
Yeah, I remember. Right. I remember it came out. I was in the 8th or 9th, 8th to 9th grade at the time. I remember the DVD came out, and It was actually one of the movies that we had. We were watching the smaller than this screen on an iPod.
All right, cool. Revenge of the Sith, by the way, was a prequel. That was the prequels.
Yeah.
So my bad. I'm just saying the wrong thing. I meant Empire Strikes Back, which is now the big. That's the real one everybody talks about. But at the time, it was very controversial. Amazingly, even with all the reviews and everything, people were like, "What?" And they were like angry and stuff. Anyway, point is that the fans of Star Wars fans, they seem to be short-sighted or short-minded or something, because they forgot completely about the history of these Jedi, and somehow, how can you think that Luke Skywalker would be the perfect Jedi? Jedi have never been perfect. In fact, they break their own laws, for crying out loud. They're Jedi that married and stuff, and they're not supposed to marry, and they're not supposed to have overcome an emotion over any one given thing. And a lot of Jedi got to overcome an emotion. They've done all kinds of crazy stuff. Obi-Wan Kenobi is guilty of that as well, and he loved certain people as well. People don't talk about this stuff in Jedi lore, but yeah, and I think that how Luke Skywalker actually viewed the Jedi and what they were about was very interesting, because that's stuff that I actually read about concerning the Jedi. That the Jedi, in many respects, think about it. Because of the Jedi, we had the Clone Wars. The Jedi never listened to God, what's her name? You remember Anakin's Padawan?
Ahsoka Tano.
Right. You remember she was framed?
Yeah, I remember that episode. I only started watching the Clone Wars back in 2006 spring when it was added into YouTube. I mean Netflix. It was after Force Awakens. I have seen it. And as a friend of mine who was a big Star Wars fan, if I had to watch it, she gave me a big list of things that why I should watch it.
See, you gotta watch
I spent that spring watching it.
Yeah, you gotta watch the Clone Wars. You should watch also Star Wars Rebels, because Star Wars Rebels and the Clone.
I have watched Rebels as well.
Right.
I have seen the Clone Wars, the War series, about 2 and I don't say have. Netflix has recently brought the 2 seasons of it back, but not the latter ones for some reason.
They should bring the later ones, man. It's dope. I mean, I loved the Clone Wars series. Okay. Yeah. And it's still up there. You can also go on Kiss Cartoon and those kinds of things and get the whole entire lowdown. Go check out Kiss Cartoon. But remember,
I have Discuss account as well. I have commented the episodes there.
Yeah. So, but my point is, if you've watched the Clone Wars and if you've watched Star Wars Rebels, then everything that you saw in this, let's call it episode number 8 of Star Wars makes perfect sense. And you're watching people who say they're Star Wars fans, and you're like, what are you talking about, man? Haven't you seen the Clone Wars? Haven't you seen Star Wars Rebels? What are you talking about? Because to me, it doesn't make any sense.
But there's also the Knights of Ren that I have that they were referenced in the Force Awakens, and they were never brought up. There was some theorizing about Ezra from the Rebels to becoming the leader of them when he was supposedly being tempted to becoming Darth Maul's apprentice.
Ezra Miller? I'm not Ezra. What am I saying? Not Ezra Miller. Sorry, Ezra Miller. I'm talking about Ezra. Yeah. Ezra, the kid who's orphaned and he was trying to find out about him.
That was some. Yeah, I remember reading some reports or rumors that he was under Darth Maul's tutelage as an apprentice, he would have founded the Knights of Ren, but that never went anywhere.
No, he wasn't Darth Maul's apprentice. What happened in the end?
Yeah, he was. But he was tempted to become one. And Darth Maul tried to seduce him into becoming.
Yes. But he came. It's a long story, but in the end, Obi-Wan Kenobi kills Darth Maul.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's actually dead though, because I think he comes back in something else. I was watching it. I can't remember. And
I
the other thing
don't think
is,
so. No,
the
I think
correct,
it was a fast, clean strike, and then they
you
had
talk,
a moment talking, and he, and Mo died in his arms. Or
yeah,
so it was implied.
yes. So we'll see if he's really dead. Remember, he was sliced in half,
What has he been doing all this time?
and he came back. And you remember in the Clone Wars, the Emperor Palpatine, who is Darth Sidious, he captured him and was zapping the daylights out of him. So I am not going to kill you. I still have a use for you. And he's laughing as he's torturing.
Yeah, but what the use was when it come? The next time we saw him was in the Twilight of the Apprentice when he was on Dathomir.
Yes. So he does come back. I don't even know how that happened, but and that's how we see Obi-Wan Kenobi interfacing with him, and Obi-Wan Kenobi allegedly kills him. I don't know if he's still dead. I don't really know.
If he's not dead, I repeat my question again. If he's not dead, what has he been doing there all this time? Where has he been? Even if he is a cyborg, even if he is half from the cyborg,
remember what happened to him. Remember the first time he was injured, he was just this kind of creature thingy moving underneath some rubble. So
yeah,
maybe
yes, I know that, but how much time has passed since then?
So what I'm saying to you is, in Star Wars Rebels, some of the characters we saw in Rogue One, remember that? Where everybody died. Okay, so Rogue One is after Star Wars Rebels. It's not during the time of Star Wars. It's after.
Yeah, it's said after Rebels. Hera is supposed to be alive in there, and we see Ghost in the ship during the battle above the.
Yes, but
and then they mention General Syndulla when they're leaving for the final battle.
Right. So there's a lot of questions I have between Rogue One and that, but Rogue One also again, the thing about Rogue One is we don't see any of the other characters. We don't see Ezra. We don't see the lady who flies the thing. We don't see the girl. I forgot what do you call them again? She's you know what I'm talking about, the warrior girl who's a creative
the Mandalorian girl.
Mandalorian, yes, she's a Mandalorian.
Her name was.
I can't remember. It's for reasons
it was.
It's there. I know. But we haven't seen her, right? Doesn't mean they were dead before. Maybe not. Maybe it's just a different part of the universe or whatever. I have no idea. Okay. But at the end of the day, we had these characters. They died off in Rogue One, right? Trying to stop the Death Star. They died off. So it is what it is. Sabine. Yes, Sabine. That's her name. So, but at the end of the day, I'm not quite sure if, like you're saying, you say he's probably dead, and I'm saying maybe he's not. And you remember, in Star Wars, you can focus on different stories. So maybe where he is right now, you don't know what's going on with him, but he's somewhere there trying to recover or something, which is probably what's happening.
Star Wars also has time travel because of that one episode in Rebels.
Yeah, well, I mean, Rebels, there's just a lot of stuff going on in Rebels, which I really enjoyed. I've lost track of Rebels, actually. I haven't been following it. I need to go back. But it's good, man. I like Star Wars Rebels as well. And I thought,
you don't know where it's going then, where the final season ended.
Where has it ended, by the way? I have no idea where it's ended. I know that
they showed there was an episode where there was some time tunnels where spoilers, Ezra pulled Ahsoka from the events of Twilight of the Apprentice so that she didn't die there. She is still alive.
I know that
she was shown alive in the finale.
Okay, so Ahsoka's still alive.
Yeah.
Okay. So where is Ahsoka now? Why we're not seeing Ahsoka in Rogue One?
That I don't know. She was shown they showed her in the finale in a cameo or something of a role in appearing to Sabine, who survived or what was it, Sabine or Hera? Well, so both Sabine and Hera survived, and at the end there was the Kanan is dead.
Gave his life.
Yeah, he gave his life, and there was a scene with in a time travel episode where Ezra saw that he could have had a chance to pull Kanan out of that situation to save him, like he had just saved Ahsoka. But if he had done that, he would have changed the past so that Kanan sacrificed that when he was using the Force,
right,
the blast from taking the ghost, the blast would have come, and the past version of Ezra and Hera would have died there.
Yeah. So that's why they just
it was a character-defining moment where Ezra had to let go of his master.
Yeah. And he had to come to terms with that. I remember him. That's when he went into, like you said, the time thing where, you remember, again, these godlike beings that you saw in the beginning of that thing, the time thing, were actually from the Clone Wars.
Yeah, I know the father, the brother, and the son and the sister.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah. So that was the last episode. Okay. I didn't know that. I thought I'd seen everything so far. It's just they haven't started up a new set of stuff. Okay.
But show is supposedly cancelled over by now.
Canceled?
Yeah, it was the final season, and the finale that came was meant as a wrap up. It was not as a it's over now. It's basically.
That's terrible. I want to know what happened to Ezra and Hera and Ahsoka and all of them. That's terrible.
Ezra's case, it was left ambitious. It was a look up the rest of the episodes and see for yourself what happened. The Sabine and Hera were still at Chopper when they were still sort of alive, and it actually Ezra's face was left ambiguous. That what happened to him wasn't shown what had happened, but it was ended with something like Hera and or maybe not Hera, maybe it was just Sabine going to look for him with Ahsoka.
It's still terrible because there's no closure on it. Like Ezra's supposed to be. We were watching Ezra grow into this, and now we want to know what's his significance with the whole entire universe. How did we get to the rebels that we have now? That's what I'm trying to figure out, And they never connect the dots. God,
yeah, well,
annoying.
Go to this cartoon and watch the rest of the episodes when we're done with this.
You said it seems as though I've seen all the episodes then, because for you telling me if that's the final episode, that annoys me. But it's all good. It's all good, I guess. I don't know, man.
What was the last episode you saw?
I thought there were more episodes. I thought they were going to try and close it off and connect it.
Well, it wasn't.
Because
what was the last episode you saw?
They connected Rogue One to A New Hope, so that's cool. I mean, they tie that knot down. But they didn't. Oh man, that's terrible. That's what it is. Okay. Cool. I haven't watched, man, Star Wars Rebels in a while. I should have really just kept on watching because I really like that stuff. I love Star Wars Rebels.
One important thing: when you go, don't go to Kiss Cartoon. Go to Kim Cartoon.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, everyone else was watching this. Don't search for Kiss Cartoon. Go to Kim Cartoon.
Okay. Okay. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about Star Wars there. I know a lot of people really want to talk about the DCU, but I just find that, in my opinion only, and I've listened to all the criticisms of Star Wars: The Last Jedi, and to me, it's just more nitpicks than it is the general best.
The final episodes were 15 and 16.
No, there weren't more episodes of this
season? 15 and 16. They're here. They're at kimcartoon.mes. A double featured episode.
Wonderful. Yeah. So that's Star Wars Rebels. But again, as I said before, to me, the last, I haven't really fully spoken on what I want to say about The Last Jedi, but it's all good and well. All right, it's 2:02 in the day. I know it's about what? It's about 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the night where you are.
9 p.m.
Ooh, you're 7 hours ahead of us. That's cool. What I want to do is just talk a little bit more about Justice League now. So I showed you guys, I don't know if you were watching it, but I showed you all of the what I thought was the significance about coming together and these different worlds, and again showing you the symbology of what Bruce was doing as he progressed forward. So first he tried to get the League together, which you saw in Batman v Superman. That was the dawn of justice right there. Then you saw him realize that the League wasn't sufficient, so he was talking about we are not enough, and that Superman needs to come through, Clark needs to come through and join the League. And so we say that there was a complete League after Clark came, but even after Clark came, which is what I showed in the video, realize that that's not the League. That's just the beginnings of the League, and that the League actually starts to really expand and build in the successive movies that we'll see with Justice League. Because you heard Bruce saying, you know, round table, 6 chairs, and Diana says, and room for more, and he says room for more, right? That hints to the Justice is going to be much bigger. So you tell me, what do you think about Justice League in terms of that? Have you seen any other comic book movies that reflect that kind of thing? What do you think? That approach, at least. You can think about it. There's X-Men out there, you know, there was the Avengers, there was the Revengers with Thor Ragnarok, there was Fantastic Four, the series before that. You don't have to look at the most recent Fantastic Four, but if you want to, that's fine as well. You had the Assembly, Transformers. You had Mighty Morphin Power Rangers in 2017. You had the earlier version of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers as well. All of these team-up movies. Think about it now, seriously. Have you seen an approach like that ever? What do you think? You think about it. Give yourself some time to think. And in the meantime, let me just see what's going on in the chat section. All right, not much going on in the chat section here. Let me just make sure I'm clear because this kind of froze up here. We good? All right.
I'm the only one watching it at the moment.
Well,
or someone else.
It's sometimes more than that. See, they go 2 viewers again, whatever.
I'm getting a phone call.
So tell me, what do you think? Anybody else? Any other approach like that? Okay. Well, anyway, back to us. Yeah. Okay. So how about you guys that are watching this video right now? Leave it in the comment section. What do you think? Are there any other movies? Who's that? You talking to somebody? Okay, he's talking to somebody in the background. Let me just mute him there. Yeah, so for those of you who are, let me see, where am I? For those of you out here who know of any other set of movies out there, I don't think there's any. You know, I've seen, for instance, X-Men. They had Xavier. They had all the every time we've seen it, we've already seen the mutants together. We've seen them sort of assemble mutants together before, but never in the context of different people coming from different worlds to work together, and in a way in which we see that there's room for more. Like you begin with the inception in another movie, then it follows up with them realizing they're not sufficient, to getting that extra piece to complete the puzzle, to now seeing that there's potential for unlimited potential for more. I've not seen that before. And quite frankly, I've never seen that approach before. And I find that very interesting. And that each character is not defined by their special powers, but defined by their ideology going forward. I find that just a unique, more complete approach. And I think it's probably DC that does that. They have this approach where they actually define so that what you're seeing is really the characteristics of something or someone. And I think that's the way to go. How DC approaches things, that gives a deeper perspective of things, in my opinion. And that's why I really care about the DC. Even when I looked at Logan, that movie was fine. And I'm interested in the New Mutants, but it doesn't translate into what does Logan represent? Because Logan doesn't represent any ideology. He's just this free moving guy who's trying to survive.
Maybe it does. Logan have some in the way that in the in the old age and
But he
father.
doesn't represent
Yeah,
anything. He doesn't
female
represent values. He has no ideology behind him. He doesn't represent hope. He doesn't represent love. He's not a connection to the marine environment. He's not a connection to technology. He doesn't represent anything. If you think about it, he's just this raging, ravenous creature with claws that is a loner, and he always is learning how to be a part of something or realizes he needs to be a part of something. This is basically what Logan is always representing, if anything, but he doesn't really represent anything. People like him for his ravenous nature and the fact that he can Hulk out. He's basically like a Hulk figure. Think about it. I mean, him being old and aging just gives color to that, but at the end of the day, when you break down what Logan is, that's what he is. He's a loner and he's trying to survive, and that's Logan, if you think about it. And he's always having to, even in the first X-Men movie where he was introduced, he's always having to see the bigger picture. But in this case, he learns of the bigger picture, not from Xavier this time, because Xavier can't help him, because Xavier is mentally kind of gone there. He has to be sedated. So now he has to learn from his daughter. So his daughter was teaching him the bigger picture. He had to learn to communicate with her, right? In the very first X-Men movie that was introduced by Bryan Singer, he came into this new community, found out that he had this new community around him, and then he was trying to learn who he was, his past. And so when we go through X-Men, kind of going through a journey through Logan's eyes, learning more about his world. But Logan ideologically doesn't have an ideology per se. Doesn't really have anything that we can, a deep ideology of any kind. It doesn't. Self-preservation is his thing, pretty much. If you think about it, that's what Logan is in the crux of it. And he's a guy who's trying to survive. Think about it. What do you think?
Oh, that's one way to look at it. And you that view I had about it just now.
What do you think? What do you think? You were saying something about his ideology. You go ahead and say your piece on that, because I was trying to understand.
Well, now after you said your piece, and I'm going to fit in with the one I have now. It was actually that's kind of sad now that I just realized it. You don't know what you have until it's gone. That's what I just thought of. That when it came to Logan, he didn't know what he had until it was gone. The father he had Xavier, and then life he could have had as a father to Laura. That's kind of something like that. You never know what you have until it's gone.
But does he represent an ideology? See, that's a take-home message. Yeah, you know, he truly lost. He begins to value things. But in terms of him, what does he represent as a character? He doesn't really represent anything per se. That's what I'm trying to say.
Maybe not. In that case, and in that way. Yeah, actually, not maybe when he was the younger version of the character. He probably was, as you said, a berserker, raging beast, and monster. And at the old, and when he got older, it brought color into it, and with retrospective and stuff. That it's basically the same thing that happened with the new God of War game. Looking back on the monstrous past that he had and tried. Like that, knowing what he had, and then it was gone, and then.
So you're saying he represents the ideology of a monster. He's kind of like a He's kind of like a Frankenstein's creation, where he's kind of misunderstood, and they try to show the humanity of the monster. That's what you're trying to say. That he represents the boogeyman that really isn't. Kind of like the Hulk, you know, he's a boogeyman, but really he's a person. That's what you're saying? I'm not a monster. I'm a human being. That.
Well, not in that kind of sense. Maybe a monster that had embraced its monster, being a monster, and when not being a monster, but still seeing himself as a monster, a monster. So, others could see that he was not a monster. It's something like that. In the new God of War game, for example, there was the scene of Kratos going to when he saw Athena, his sister from the Greek pantheon, and who told him that he would always be a monster. But Kratos acknowledged that he knew that she was right about that, but then countered it by saying that he's not her monster anymore.
Interesting.
That's bad. Acknowledging that's something, but saying that not the monster you think he is.
Right. Okay. So, the one, I guess I can give you that I don't know if it's a much of an ideology that we could use, but I get where you're coming from, that you have to know people to determine if they really are monsters or not. You have to get to know people. You can't just judge them from face value. And I think before the X-Men series ever came to be, and Hugh Jackman ever played the character, we always thought of Wolverine as just this raging beast. That's all Wolverine was, this raging beast of vengeance, and you chop up things and stuff with like a Wolverine would, right?
Yeah, but actually there was also the relationship he had with Rogue, which was kind of like a the friendship he had with Rogue. That was also something was great. It's something of a father figure or an older brother.
Mentally, yeah.
Something like that. That when she was on the run because her power was leeching power from life force from other people, and then he let her come to his van and drive through and go through the winter wasteland, that wasteland where they were before they came to the Xavier School of Mutants. That's so that relationship when she was a student, and when he left the beginning of the first movie and came back, it was shown that they had a good relationship as friends.
Right. Again, you showing he's a person. He's got he's got a life beyond just being this raging beast. So it humanized him.
Yeah, and also in the Brett Ratner's Last Stand X-Men movie, when there was the cure for mutants, and she wanted to go take it, and he stopped her, or didn't stop her, just confronted her in a passively friendly way. She asked if he was going to stop her from doing it, and Logan just answered that, "I'm not your father. I'm your friend. I don't want you, and I support you in doing what you think is the best for you."
Right. And I think again, more of humanizing him, which was pretty good. And as I said, for the earliest perception of Logan was that he was just this raging beast, and he's not just this raging beast that rages over everything. So they show that dimension to him. As to, I'm not too sure if we could say he had an ideology that he lived by. In other words, not what he's identified with, but what he lived by. And you could see that with some of these other characters, they have these ideologies that they live by, their codes that they live by. So I think that's what I was pretty much trying to say. But nonetheless, I was saying that about Justice League because, these are things we can take with us, and we can actually utilize in everyday community events and stuff. And so we have a community here. You're from Finland. Crazy. Yeah. I'm from Trinidad. The unlikely combination of people actually meeting like that is just, it's unusual. Your first language is not even English, I don't think. I think it's Finnish.
No,
right?
It's Finnish, yeah. And even crazier thing about Finnish is that Finnish and Finland are not Finnish and Finland in Finnish.
What?
Finland
Oh,
in Finnish is Suomi.
Suomi.
Suomi, yeah.
Suomi.
Ja Suomi. Minä
Suomi.
puhun suomea tässä nyt. Tämä on suomen kieltä, mitä minä nyt puhun.
Cool. You talk like so fluent, man. That's cool. Man, I have to learn some Finnish, man. I have to learn some Finnish. I'll trade you some Trini for some Finnish. So we'll you know, and that's the nice thing I think of communities. It's we get to impart the best of all worlds to each other, and I think that's what the Justice League represents, and it's something we can actually pass on and, you know, actually form communities with that. So that's why I'm very interested in it on a practical level, and that's why I value it actually. So I still, you know, we've been talking about a whole set of other movies, but I think they all play into an inclusiveness. Like, for instance, you know, there's this sort of DC versus MCU kind of thing going on there, and I don't really like it per se. And I feel like the best of both worlds is important. And I think that the DC tried to incorporate the best of both worlds. I think the MCU then attempted to do something like that with Black Panther. And they even tried to attempt it with Infinity War. I think it's a great form of flattery when somebody actually tries to adopt some of your principles and some of your style. I think it's just beautiful. So I'm all about inclusiveness, crossovers. I'm like you. I think you believe the same thing, because you really delve into crossover, not only comics but crossover science fiction with different things. You like to cross over things, and I think that's really nice. I think that's why you're even on this channel right now, because you like that crossover thing going on, and that sort of mixing in a community to bring something better. So I just hope that he can see, as flawed as Justice League may be to some people, I see it as a solid film. Yes, I see flaws in it, but I don't really focus on those things. And the same thing with Star Wars: The Last Jedi. Remember, I'm not a Star Wars fan, okay, like that. But Star Wars: The Last Jedi, to me, it shows this inclusiveness, and that's why I think the character of Finn's, the girl who was working with Finn, I think her name is Rose. Was it Rose?
Rose Pico, that was her name.
Rose Pico, yeah. I think she's integral. Okay, I got it wrong. Rose, though, I think she's integral into, again, a fusion, a sort of coming together of different things. I'm not talking about ethnicity. I'm talking about the background of her. Well, actually, I am talking about Rose's ethnicity, because Rose in the film comes from a certain planet, and we go to her planet and we find out the significance of that. And I think it's just that space is important for us to see the other side of somebody's culture, or the other side of somebody's, what they've grown up in and why they'd feel a certain way about things. It gives us the motivations for different people. And so I find that her character, while not, because it's so different to what we've ever seen on the screen, her character to me may chafe at some people. Some people will be like, man, what's this puffy faced, fat, oversized, Asian looking chick doing on the screen? Like, she shouldn't be there. You know what I mean? What's her purpose in this movie? She's not even, you know, and I can understand that, because she's like literally that protagonist in the movie is everything Hollywood is not. Hollywood says beautiful, thin, you know, not necessarily ethnically balanced, but if you're ethnically balanced, then you gotta, you know, don't be too heavy on the ethnicity. She's everything, and then her character behaves in such a manner that they say you have to be charismatic to be a front player, and she's not necessarily charismatic. She's kind of soft. She's kind of uncertain about herself, yet she's got strong feelings. You know, just the perfect thing. It's like even the leader of the rebels with the purple hair.
Yeah, Honda.
You easily buy into it. You're like, she's not charismatic. She seems to be doing the wrong thing. She doesn't even seem to know what she's doing, confirming the stereotype of woman, right? And then she's wearing this purple hair. She must be a lesbian. You know what I'm saying? No disrespect to lesbians, but I'm just saying people have a certain view of them. And at the end of the day, Everything about her makes her feel, you really believe, you buy into it. She's got to be a villain. She's just sabotaged. She doesn't know what she's doing. So you feel that feeling as you're going through the movie. And then when she really turns out to be the right one in the whole thing, you know, it turns your whole perception of things upside down, and it challenges people. And I think that it's showing that there are different people in this world. The movie is so real to me. And I don't think people like that. I don't think people like realism in their blockbusters. They don't like to be reminded of reality and what reality really is. They want that fantasy. They want to live that lie. People like lies. They like being lied to, you know.
Yeah,
And
truth hurts, but lies are worse.
I'm sorry?
Truth hurts, but lies are even worse.
Yeah.
Somebody said that somewhere.
It's true. It's true. People like being lied to. They this is a fantasy. Keep it a fantasy, and they don't like the realism inside the fantasy. So I really enjoyed this movie for those things, you know. And I think people like to hate things too that they don't understand. It's strange how I'm keep on quoting BVS all the time. People hate what they don't understand. They really do. Something new they haven't seen before.
Yeah, like today there was the news about what Zack Snyder's next movie project is going to be, and it's got a lot of hate for the sake of hating it.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah,
And I love Zack Snyder for a number of reasons. He takes some really gutsy, bold steps.
yeah.
And he's
About
not partisan. He's not partisan at all. He's all about humanity. So he will say some things that are extremely controversial, and he may source certain things, make it Hitler. He's quoting from Hitler, and he's quoting this, and he does some really out the deep end sometimes stuff. It seems, but really the guy is coming from a humanist point of view. He's very humanist. I think he's very human centric in his stuff. You know, he goes there, man. He really goes there. I appreciate him for that. You know, he takes those bold moves. I think they hate him and they don't understand. And then 10, 15 years after, they'll be saying, oh, yeah, this guy was brilliant and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I personally think so. Yeah, man. But I want to ask you one other question. I know I've been rambling. I've been a little too verbose. I should have probably not been so verbose. Let you say your piece. I've not been letting you say piece. I've just been running my mouth. I want to ask you this question. Where do you think, in the scheme of things, Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice, where do you think that will fit in the scheme of things 10 years down the road?
Well, the one thing it will almost certainly be is the movie in which Batman and Superman were together for the first time. That's what it's always going to be. And also had the Trinity together, and there's a Superman together, and it will be analyzed as much as any other movie that has come in the last 20 years or so ago. And like there, I have come across a lot of posts on Facebook taken from Tumblr or some people who have been watching those movies that came from back then, and they have analyzed some things that I have thought, well, that's mundane, that's not really a big deal to do. I never thought about it like that. Maybe those people, if they're willing, if they are the same spirited people who don't necessarily wish to hate on those hate Zack Snyder, we'll look at Batman v Superman with those analytical eyes, and they will see that what all those things that you have been discussing and they have been discussing and so forth. Then those kind of people will keep it alive as they have kept it. As they have kept it as remembered as far as the 2 years it has been out by now, and Yeah, that's a movie that no one's gonna forget anytime soon.
I think that you're right. I think that they're not going to forget it anytime soon, whether it's negative or positive at the present point in time. I really do think so. And I just want to add that I think it's the debut also of the Trinity.
Yeah, I mentioned that too.
Yeah. It's the debut.
Yeah, that's that you had seen from we see the silhouettes of them from the explosions the Doomsday was making, and then Superman standing, Diana standing, and Batman coming with the kryptonite gas grenade launcher. Their backs from that. Those silhouettes, the light in front of them, the silhouettes of their backs. That's
Right.
that's that's a scene of that's a really work of art.
And I gotta say, there are other first. There's the introduction of Doomsday. That whatever people think about it, and of course, this is not Doomsday. The Doomsday we saw on Krypton was more of the Doomsday, but nonetheless, this is a version of Doomsday that is not the original Doomsday. And then we saw also, which we must not forget, the death of Superman.
Yes, that's
death of Superman. Yeah. So, and we could talk about also the resurrection of Superman was in that movie, the first resurrection of Superman. Technically,
it was that. It was some maybe
when he was blown up.
Maybe that yeah, and he blew it up. Maybe some reports I recall reading from before the Ultimate Edition came out is that Zack Snyder didn't want the floating dirt to be there. That some executives were actually the ones who told it to be that there should be a sign that Superman is coming back without any like text and like appearing text that says will return in this movie.
So wait, you let me ask you this question because I'm very curious what you thought. You thought it was a disconnect between the floating dirt above the casket and what happened in Justice League? You thought it was
yeah, well, now it was now it is a disconnect, but maybe there was some other plan or something else, or it was a red herring, or maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was a hard. Maybe it was a. Maybe it was a heartbeat from a coming resurrection. Maybe it was gravity manipulated around him as the slow healing was beginning, or something else. It could have. Yeah, it's not something that.
because you can't make sense of the dirt coming up above the coffin. You were wondering like, okay, there was dirt on the coffin all the time. Why did dirt suddenly start to rise at this point in time? And there's many different theories on it. Some people say that it's a metaphor, that literally the dirt didn't rise, but it was a metaphor that Zack Snyder was trying to paint. Very much like how Batman started rising out of the well with the bats. That didn't actually happen. It was a dream. It was a metaphor.
But it works but it works as a metaphor together with it. Coming from it began with a funeral, it ended with a funeral, and there were rises in both of those. In that sense, it might actually work. I might be wrong or remember it, and remember it.
So there's that school of thought. I actually don't believe that. I think it's also, while it may have been a metaphor, I think it actually rose. I think the dirt actually rose because of the bioelectric aura that Superman has. That even when he's dead, he still has energy in him. He has charge in him. And that's what caused the dirt to rise. And it was just levitating there. But of course, the guys who were shoveling him in didn't notice it. So they just shoveled him up. They just covered him over, right? And I think people were wondering, okay, now the dirt rises. That means he's alive. It didn't mean he was alive. It just meant that his body was carrying this bioelectric charge still in him, you know?
Yeah.
And I think Zack Snyder was just simply trying to hint that there's hope that he could come back to life. I think that's what that was all about. And we had to find out what was going to be the mechanism for him to come back to life. That's how I just saw it. So I thought it was continuous with what we saw. And it made sense that he had to be charged up again. He had to get that full jolt of, power back into him, energy back into him through the mother box. I'm actually happy the mother box brought him back to life, because it leads to a complication. There is an extra there's an extra entity or a sentient being that is actually living in Superman with Superman, just like with cyborgs.
The new commenters.
Sentient being inhabited cyborg cybernetics, which is why the cybernetics can grow and it can he modifies all the time. And
you commentators.
Sorry?
You commentators. Image PK and Tommy Temper.
Some people are in the chat section.
Yeah, I know. I'll check it.
Oh yeah, there it is. Nimesh, PK, DC. Okay, you can go ahead and read them for me. And I'll just keep on talking when you're ready.
Okay. Image PK. DC characters have better storylines and yeah, got damn good villains with an exclamation point. Tommy Temper says, "Hello, DC gurus. We're DC gurus."
Shout out to you, Tommy, and shout out to you. What is it, NPK?
Yeah, Dimesh PK.
Dimesh PK. Nice to see you guys from, of course, Ireland, and we also have someone from, I don't know where you're from, Dimesh PK. Tell us where you're from. You know, it's nice to be in this community. We've been on for a while now, a couple hours. Like I was saying, I think that the fact that Superman is a symbiont now is crazy, because remember Steppenwolf said that Superman, he said to Cyborg, "You're born of her. You're an agent of chaos," and we know what that means now, because we actually saw Cyborg not be able to control his hands, his limbs, the machine, which he's enveloped in. And if you watched any of my previous videos, you know that Cyborg is literally contained inside of the machine, and the machine kind of twins with some of his. So it's like twinned with his skeletal structure. It's like twinned with his skull. You actually see part of its machine, and when you watch a Superman's X-ray vision, you get to see through Cyborg. So you see his skull is actually knit together with the machine, and then his bone structure. When you look at it, parts of the machine, the crystalline metal parts, merge with some of his bone structure that has been broken up and shattered and whatever. And it actually bound to some of his skin as well. So the machine literally is infused with him. So he has human parts and then he has machine parts that take over everything. So that what people don't know is it's not just completely alien, the machine body structure that you see, but it's actually from his from the appendages that Silas Stone added to him. Well, life went into those things too. So life went into Cyborg, the human part of him, to keep him alive. And then life went into the appendages. That's why the appendages grow and they look kind of alien and stuff like that. So he literally, you know, he grew more feet and it evolves, it updates itself. It's really crazy. When you think about the concept, is loco. It sends you kind of like, whoa, that's kind of cool. You know, and then when you think of Superman now, he's also symbiont. There's another living thing inside of him, and that makes him a little bit unpredictable. He can go to the dark side. He can go, you know, dark sides or equation. I forgot what it's called. The something equation. I forgot what it's called. I don't know why I can't remember it right now.
But the answers with two small emojis telling to be from India. Tommy Temper gives us a face emoji, and Seth replies transhumanisms.
Transhumanism, yes, sir. And it's a scary concept thinking about that, because transhumanism is a scary topic, and they actually did correct Tommy. They actually introduced transhumanism, which is, oh man, that is just so, it's crazy, because we've been talking about how human beings being replaced by that is a scary thought. That's all I will say about that. You know, but we're heading in that direction. So Cyborg is definitely something that's maybe relevant for the future. It's a scary thought to me. I still feel afraid of it, and the fact that I feel afraid of that, I can imagine how people would be afraid of Cyborg if he was to just show up in the world. That'd be a petrifying thought for me. You know, it's like a scary thought of aliens being on Earth and having all these powers and sort of living among us and sort of having the appearance of us. You know, Men in Black sort of pushed that concept, and now we see it with Man of Steel. So I just think that you know, every time I think about, you know, what the DCU says, and then the thing about that, it came from a science fiction point of view. So not so much fantastical, not so much fantasy, which tells us these things are actually possible. That's what scares me. I don't know about you guys, but science fiction is a thing that always tells me this is possible. That's what science fiction tells me. So for me, as a scientist and so on, from that background, it kind of sort of, it makes me feel a little bit uneasy. But then when you look at the positive side of it, you know, what could happen as a positive possibility, I'll tell you guys this. You know, people talk about telekinesis all the time. That is being able to move objects with your mind. Telekinesis didn't just come about, that idea didn't just come about from science fiction. It's actually something I've been studying ancient civilizations that they seem to have been able to do, and which is why part of the idea of the pyramids being moved is not just people moving these pyramids via various mathematical mechanisms that they calculated, but also apparently telekinesis has something to do with that. And that's, when we say these things, I don't know if you guys, you've heard of magic tricks where magicians might move objects with their mind and stuff like that. But, again, think about electromagnetic radiation.
Yeah.
And if you think of it like that, magnets and stuff, then you can see how that may be a possibility if you could focus it enough. Similarly, telepathy is not so out there. If you think about it, we are receiving signals all the time, and we are interfacing with other electromagnetic fields all the time. And we actually emit electromagnetic fields, and we know there's auras and stuff. And we also emit it in light energy. So it's not that far-fetched to think that someone like Cyborg could be in contact with the internet in a field called the grid and actually be hearing all these different people and stuff going on. It's not that far-fetched as you think. So
probably, giving some attention to the commentators. Someone left just now.
Okay.
Tommy Temple asking, what's inside Superman? The codex that Jor-El put inside him during in the opening of Man of Steel when he was still a baby. That's something that was inside him. I have watched Altered Carbon. That was.
No, I've never seen Altered Carbon. What is that? Sci-fi?
Yeah, it's a sci-fi show. A sci-fi show on Netflix. I watched it during the spring. It stars Joe Kinnaman, who played Rick Flag in Suicide Squad. He plays basically a Chinese man who's placed into a body of Joe Kinnaman, who was also something like that. Who was actually originally a cop who was executed, and his body was used to put a 200 years ago imprisoned war criminal inside him. And the Altered Carbon is something that they have this kind of sleeve technology where people can be put into other bodies. So that
the consciousness of the person or the actual
consciousness, so very much like consciousness. As the Kinnaman as character is Takashi Kovacs, a Chinese man in there, and there's also an actor, I don't recall his name right now, but an actor that I really liked in a crime thriller series that came out a few years ago. That basically it's something like there's this billionaire who invented this technology where you put people's consciousness into other bodies, and he was killed. But thanks to the sleeving technology and cloning technology, he's alive.
Right. Okay.
But the identity of his murderer is still a mystery, because the last few hours of his consciousness were
removed.
Were removed, so he doesn't remember the circumstances of his death. So he hires the Joe Kinnaman's character to figure out what happened during those lost hours and who was the one who killed him.
Okay. I like this. I gotta see that. That's my kind of stuff.
Yeah, it is.
So it's a mystery thriller based
Yeah,
on.
it's a mystery. It's mostly 8 episodes.
Oh
It's
my
also
God.
it's also quite funny actually. One scene where there's this kind of there's this female cop, because there's always a female cop who's Spanish in background, and she brings her deceased grandmother to a family meeting, a family dinner, while the grandmother is in the body of a tattooed criminal. It's quite kind of funny to watch that.
It's not really like Face Off. Face Off is where you actually
No,
take,
it's not face off. It's basically like taking
yeah, the
the
mind.
consciousness and putting it in another body.
Yeah. It's kind of like 6 Day. 6 days. It's kind of like that
Something
kind.
like that, but maybe not pretty much more. Watch the show.
I
Put it on your Netflix watch list.
Right. So to answer Tommy's question about Superman and what's inside of him, Superman keeps his sentient consciousness. So Superman is Superman.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So Superman, Kal-El, he remembers, Bruce Wayne, and he's in the beginning he was a little bit confused, but he remembers them. But then there's this other sentient consciousness that comes from the mother box, a life force that's inside of him, and that is another sentient consciousness. But however, at the point in time, Kal-El is in control of that host, as we call it, that keeps him alive. So how we know this is because with Cyborg, the host that actually went into both Victor Stone, or what remained of him, and his appendages, which were implants. Okay, it went into both, so his appendages became alive, and basically the sentient existence, which is now the host of Cyborg, which basically controls most of the machinery of him because he's mostly machine, is living in coexistence as a symbiont, as we call it. So there's, Firestorm is his name. Firestorm is a symbiont of a professor and then a student.
Yep.
Right. He's a symbiont. Well, similarly, Superman now is a symbiont. There's another life force in him, keeping him alive, as well as his own consciousness and his own life force. All right. And same thing for Cyborg. And what we will learn later on, which is really cool about Cyborg, this was my favorite DC character so far, is Cyborg's the sentient being in him, which will be known as the grid later on, will separate itself from him partially. Can't fully separate, because that sentient being will want to experience what it is fully to be human. All right. So
Actually, one of those fake fanfics I wrote a few years ago, one of them is called Outsiders Beyond Good and Evil. It's basically a retelling of the Forever Evil, where Grid was first shown.
right.
However, I actually didn't use Grid that much. But I'm currently reusing Grid as a character in the Pokemon Batman crossover, which also has Owlman and Grid as the final surviving Crime Syndicate members.
Right. So what Steppenwolf, just to tell Tony Temper, what Steppenwolf is talking about when he says an agent of chaos, he's really talking about the fact that Cyborg has two entities in him. The Cyborg is not just human and machine, but he's actually two living sentient beings existing in symbiosis with one another. And at a certain point in time, there's a divorce of these sentient beings, according to the comics, and then there's a recombination of them. The thing about it is when they recombine, Cyborg is unaware that the sentient being is in him once again. So it's very interesting how this story goes. So it's not that Cyborg's consciousness or Superman's consciousness is removed from him or anything like that, but it will be that depending on the strength of the sentient being. For instance, when we were watching the Justice League, when Cyborg had a malfunction, you actually heard something go bam, right? And he goes, and that's because the host that was in him got stronger and it decided to take action and do something. And then the Cyborg had no control over the machine part of him, even though that machine part of him is more than that. It is a living entity which is living with him. It's keeping both him and the machine alive. You see, so it's
that's something There's also some other theories about that. Most likely that the Snyder cut, or got one of the things that has been explained about that is that the mother box inside, or the cybernetics in Cyborg recognized Superman being from and what he would become in the future, that's shown in BBS, and action because it will be hostile because of that. Also in the
no, actually there is
there's
the introduction of Darkseid in the ship, because as he's downloading information to resuscitate Superman, he actually sees, like you said, the vision of Darkseid, and he sees how Superman plays into that on the Kryptonian ship, which is why they did a cut where, you remember, he said, since the interface, the machine has gotten stronger and I can't control it. That's what he said. So yes, you're right. There's a part that Zack Snyder filmed that literally is cut out from that scene. We will get it in the, hopefully in the Snyder cut.
Yeah, hopefully. And the other thing I was gonna bring out was that last fall there was that comic book event and Dark Knight's Metal.
Right.
There was in the case of Cyborg, they showed him getting upgraded or something in something that he was also connecting with and communicating with the cybernetics inside him, and the mother box part
right.
was there. Also, but that he was, if he were to give himself fully to the mother box, or if he could find a middle way, and in the middle, and in the end there was something he did to be, and I should look up that storyline also.
Because in Justice League, they cut out a segment where apparently Cyborg was supposed to be deciding between trying to fight the mother box. He was supposed to.
Yeah, and he would have maybe he would have also there gotten his appearance could have then upgraded to what he looks like in the comics and like the Teen Titans cartoon. The more clean, not the scrappy metal like that. That could have been a thing, probably.
And actually, I think because he interfaced with the mother box,
we could have gotten the Cyborg 1 million baby scene that was in Metal.
Nice. So you see, like you said, there's a lot more to this story, and as you talk, we realize, the Snyder cut will kind of bring it more clarification on it. But if you watch this Justice League here, you can see where there had to be more to it, because he's able to, every time he interfaces either with the mother box or Kryptonian ship, something happened to him, and he actually became even more advanced than he was before, but less control of the other symbiont. And that's why he was called Agent of Chaos, because there's two symbionts actually occupying one space, or one, can we call it body? Should we call it body? I don't know. Thing. And it's the same thing with Superman. And that's why I'm interested in, that's what makes Justice League so very interesting, because I'm interested in the fact of what's the potential for this in the future. And remember, there's a lot of things that this movie sets up. It sets up other members of the Justice League that will be coming in. It sets up the possibility of Cyborg and Superman being evil. And so the premonition that even though we saw Superman kind of confused and we saw how powerful he was in Justice League, just imagine what happens later on when Superman goes sort of bad, because he's kind of under the control of the sentient being that gets a little stronger for some reason or the other from the mother box. And remember, Superman also interfaced with the mother box with Cyborg when they were separating the mother box. Let's not forget that. Right? And it wasn't one mother box, it was three. And from what I've learned, Mother, someone was explaining to me, Mother is in all three mother boxes. And so when Steppenwolf is talking, and that's something else, again, Zack Snyder will be able to clarify even more. But Mother is really best manifested and seen when the three mother boxes form the unity. So they got the full blast of Mother. So I'm very interested in what will happen to them as we proceed onwards in this DCEU. I would love to see, I would personally love to see Zack Snyder his cut, because I think there's a lot going on in this movie that we haven't really fully discussed yet, and from a sci-fi perspective. But what it also tells us is, while we as a community form groups and we as a community come together, people are evolving, and they may be evolving for the good or for the evil. So you have to always bear that in mind as you come together. And relationships sometimes can be tested. And so we have to always be able to ground people, or sometimes we may have to let go of people for a season because of the way how the dynamics in a community work. Everybody doesn't have the same motivation to do the same thing. So we must always remember that as a community. Let me just see what you guys else are saying here. Oh my gosh, you guys just went berserk. Oh, it's Tommy Temper. Okay. Transferring consciousness between bodies. Yes, we saw that in Krypton, where Nissa Vex, she's basically been transferred to her clone when she got in the accident with the ship with her mother. I'm definitely going to check out that movie that you talk, that series that you talk about, Tommy Temper. Yeah. You said it's on Netflix. I may have to circumvent Netflix, or maybe not. We'll see. I don't know. He said he's not removed. He's just not backed up.
Yeah, that's I did get that there back. They're basically they're also like backups, like a murder that Kovacs is investigating, hired to investigate. The backup that his client had on him, had hired him to do, it has a 48 hours that when it updates, and the murder happened just before the update would have happened. So that's why there are no 48 hours. That's why there's a 48-hour gap between his life and between he doesn't remember.
Came out after the 6th day or before the 6th day? Because the 6th day movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger basically has a similar concept.
It came out this spring actually on Netflix. I recall seeing it there, but
the 6th day came out in 2000, right after.
It's also a book. Like hold on, let me do a.
Okay, it's a book. So then maybe it came out after.
It's basically a book by Richard K. Morgan. It came out in 2002, according to Wikipedia. In a future in which interstellar travel is facilitated by transferring consciousness between bodies, called sleeves. It follows the attempt of Takeshi Kovacs, a former UN elite soldier turned into private investigator, to investigate a rich man's death. It also has the book also has sequels.
What year was the book published?
2002.
Yep, that's after the 6th day. So I guess it was inspired by the 6th day.
Yeah, reception. Describing the book, curious reviews said that body count is high, the gadgetry, genius, sex scenes, the literacy overwrought, and there's more cynicism to is this state for return to cyberpunk's badass roots. And the book won a Philip K. Dick Award of Best Novel in 2003.
Nice. I wanted to just read off one of the comments here that is interesting. Well, Tommy Temper talks about somebody who's smoking hot in that story.
Oh, yeah, that's the female cop in there. That's the. Hold on, I have to think about it. Her name was Kristen Morgan, played by Martha Higareda.
Okay. She's smoking hot.
Yeah. She's not, yeah.
Bat City Stuff says, do you think Zack Snyder would make a good Scooby-Doo in the style of Riverdale?
Riverdale.
I guess that question for you, not for me. I'm not.
I have been watching Riverdale, but I not very much lately. But I've seen what it has been what they turned it into, and what worked and what didn't work. And to be honest, I did not read Archie comics that much, or pretty much at all. Oh, actually, I have read it with some Archie comics when I come across, but considering how those comics were set back in maybe something like 50s era or 60s era, something like in the movie Pleasantville, that kind of era. I think some of the darker overtones that have been put there worked. Like in the first season's murder mystery.
Do you think Zach can only do dark? That's what you're saying?
No, 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 not that, but some layers, some areas, but other things. What I do think is that if given the Zack Snyder, he could probably cast the movie with actors that would say it well with the characters. That's what I could think, and he could probably tell how the mysteries are and mysteries and something other things, but it's not. But the modern retelling is something that I don't know how it will work. But or maybe it could. DC did put out has brought the new comic line from Hanna-Barbera series that the Scooby Apocalypse comic. I haven't read it, but I have seen what it's basically about. It's basically the Scooby Gang and Scooby Doo in a post-apocalyptic future. Something that's the premise of that comic.
That's interesting. Because you've seen Scooby.
I can't tell anymore how I think Zach could make Scooby Doo. I should probably read that comic for references. Maybe.
Nimish PK says, he asks, will Suicide Squad ever collide with Justice League? What do you think? What do you think to that, R2?
It might as well do that. We had the Justice League versus Suicide Squad, I think a 6-issue miniseries is the last back in 2016 when it was the year was about to change. It was a winter event.
Right.
It had the Suicide Squad card from the comics and Justice League from the comics. And the two Green Lanterns that I'm fond of, like Simon Baz and Jessica Cruz. I love those two Green Lanterns. And it also, the great thing that comic did, it fixed the new 52 Lobo problem.
Right. Well, what's interesting is I saw some behind the scenes footage with Zack Snyder's shot on Vero with the Flash looking at Harley Quinn, if I'm not mistaken. So it is possible, I'm trying to find it here. It is possible that we can have that clash up. I mean, Zach seemed to have been keeping his eye something on that. He had a saying or something. I'm trying to find it right now. Yep, here it is. That was 5 days ago on Vero. Hold on a second. I'm trying to get it for you guys to see.
I know what you're talking about, and I think the context behind that scene could have been a fight in the Batcave, perhaps.
Yep,
something like that. Maybe.
And what he says, oh, it's a PNG, okay. What he says is, oh, great, I downloaded the wrong place. Just now, I'm gonna just bring it up for people to see. But yeah, I think it's possible. I think it's possible that he would, you know, it could happen. It could happen. There's a lot of possibilities. We can see the Justice League face off against the Injustice League, as they call them, or the Legion of Doom.
Yeah. Or there's also the secret societal supervillains that in the new 52 were created by the Outsider, the Earth 3 Alfred from the crime scene.
Yeah.
And there's also kind of the villains that were brought up in the. If you look up the Justice League versus Suicide Squad comic book event, the villain mostly in charge of that conflict was Maxwell Lord and Eclipso.
Yeah. Maxwell Lord. That would be cool.
The actual Maxwell Lord, not the one from the Supergirl series who just was pretty much put on a bus at the end of the season 1. That one. That Maxwell Lord who had the powers, who had mind control powers and was in the comics was managed to manipulate Superman and Wonder Woman in fighting, and we got the event where
Maxwell Lord who got killed. They killed him.
And then forced Wonder Woman into killing him.
Yep. This here is what I'm talking about. So I think you can see it. Can you?
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah, and it says here, TBT, to love at first sight. What does TBT mean, by the way?
I don't know.
Let me go find out. So yeah,
maybe it's supposed to be behind the scenes. It has been somewhat established that Jack has dyslexia or something that he has some trouble in writing something that makes me do some typos. You're incognito?
Yeah.
Huh.
What does TBT mean?
Or maybe it's something else. Meaning, they're back in the day.
Oh, that's what it means. They're back in the day. So back in the day. Oh, okay. So he's saying that back in the day was love at first sight. So it's not.
Yeah, back in the day when they were filming Justice League, and
they had a history.
Actually, is this about Barry seeing Harley or Ezra seeing Margot as Harley?
I don't know. No, it can't be Ezra. You know why it's not Ezra? He's dressed as the Flash. So this is definitely Barry here. This is the Flash, and he's looking at Harley, and he sees Harley. He loved her at first sight back in the day.
Maybe it's both.
And you remember he was in Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
He cameoed in Suicide Squad, so that's an interesting.
Yeah. That's the stuff. The Batman movie be a dark gothic mystery movie?
What do you think?
It's out there. Maybe it could be that, or it could be something else. It's something that I have.
I think it's going to be that. I think the Batman's going to be
that. It could be that also, but it's something. When I have been reading Tom King's Batman comics currently, he has said something that you make Batman movie dark and give him give him darkness and sadness. It's pretty much your typical Tuesday for him. But you know what has been happening in the comics, in the Batman's mainline comics currently? Do you know what's been going on?
No, not currently. No.
Batman last year, about this same time, it has been almost a year since Batman proposed to Catwoman.
Oh yeah, he's getting married to Catwoman. Did he get married?
Yeah, that's happening, and because of that, Tom King said it that if you give Batman happiness and make him come out, give light into his life.
Yeah, but Catwoman is
the character could change. That's when the character could change for the better. I don't know about that, but yeah, I know. No, but it doesn't have to be necessarily a dark gothic mystery or something. It could have mystery, it could have darkness, but there's also a balance that could be light and darkness can exist without the other. That's the Kingdom Hearts. That's kind of funny me talking, but it could be that. It could be that, or it could be both.
I'm just saying. I mean, Catwoman of all people is not exactly the person you want to marry. For two reasons. Yeah. She's not going to stay put, and she's going to, that's like marrying somebody who just gives you more problems. If you think about
it. But read you should go to read comics and read what Tom King.
I will check it out. I'll check it out. But I will say this: I don't know Batman. I mean, he's a happy-ish kind of person. I'm not saying he's super dark and all of that, but I do believe that the director for what is it, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, Matt Reeves, he did say it was going to be a film noir, and film noir means dark, thriller, gothic story, and he is from Gotham, so it's going to be gothic. I mean, I expect that.
Could be
I
that.
expect it actually.
It could be that. It could be like that.
I think it's going to be that. I mean, unless Warner Brothers screws it over, I mean, that's what Matt Reeves goes for. He goes for kind of like what happened with Caesar and the Planet of the Apes. He's going for something where we know this character's been. Now, the thing about it is this film noir going to be after Justice League, or is it going to be in a time before that? And I believe it's going to be after. I think they're going to still use Ben Affleck, but I think they're going to use another actor playing Batman, a younger version of him. I think they're going to give some flashbacks. I think they're going to give him some context, some history.
Yeah,
So
that could be work as well. Yeah, well, but they got make yeah. But there is also the new rumor, or maybe it's not a rumor. It's basically there really isn't a rumor. But if we claim that there is a rumor, then maybe
right,
we can create a rumor by claiming that there is a rumor, because that's how you create rumors.
right, exactly.
Nothing.
That's true. That's true. That's true. I
Yeah,
agree with
I don't even think saying that and I'm like it wants to be in Batman. And when he was asked about the being the exercise written with that he's supposed to do the game in shape, he said that he gets used to it. And I have been going to the gym also lately, like now during the year. Yeah, you get used to go to the gym, except my scheduling. These few days have been making me different. The last time I got to go to the gym was at last Thursday, and
okay.
yeah, and I had to work on the weekend as a bouncer at the nearby bar, and now I have started another job, and I have the summer courses that had required me to be present at two lectures during this week that I have not been getting to go to the gym for almost a week. But it's not, but once the routine you get into the routine. You feel how good the four of working out. It's probably he has found that part.
Right. Well, I hope you be able to solve, just keep on sorting out that so you can have your routines go down. I had to go to work in a minute. I just wanted to just thank you, R2, for this discussion. Thank all the people in the chat area for this discussion at this point in time as well. One more thing I just wanted to say about Batman. I don't think we've ever really had a thriller mystery story with Batman. Batman is all about intrigue and mystery and that kind of thing.
That style is also
Detective work. Yeah.
One thing about that has struck me from Tom King's Batman writing is the scene where from his arc I Am Bane. In I Am Bane, there was this one issue which showed Batman and Bane like and the contrast in their lives. There was that one where Bane showed that what was his strength from Venom and his self-discipline, and on the contrast from Batman's side, it showed from his point of view, looking at Nightwing, Red Robin, Red Hood, Batwoman, Batgirl, Alfred, and telling them this: you, all of you, are my strength.
Right.
That's the importance of the Bat family.
Again, community, numbers. Yeah. But what I'm interested in is as a film noir, I would love to see a thriller because I think we've never really had a Batman movie where we're not really sure who the bad guy is in the movie, and you're kind of piecing together the puzzle as you go along with the main protagonist. So I would love that. A sort of kind of like Dick Tracy. I don't know if you remember Dick Tracy. That was much more childish and ficklish, but Dick Tracy as a movie, I enjoyed that a lot as a kid because it was you're trying to find out who is this person killing all these people. And like someone just said in the comment section there, in the chat section, something like the phantasm, like a phantasm kind of thing going on, kind of like Scooby-Dooby-Doo kind of thing, where you're not sure about who this villain, who is this person you're going up against.
But regardless, what it's going to be, the Masked Phantasm is a good movie on its own. We would that and in that regard, even if it's a mystery or something like that, I wouldn't want it to be a recreation or something like that,
No, no,
or
no,
a
not.
remake. And they, for example, the Hush from that Jeff Loeb wrote
Right.
back in 2002, was it? And when he introduced Hush as this other, as the new Batman villain that who he was and what it was. Well, actually, they brought up who the villain was when they showed his civilian and civilian identity and his relationship with Bruce Wayne. Then with the red herring of him getting killed before showing up at the end of that arc.
Yeah, I mean, I like what you're saying. I'm not talking about it being literally like the phantasm. I'm just saying that, you know, it's a mystery movie. I love mystery movies. I like them to take me places, and I'm not figuring out the mystery. Then that you kind of give me a misdirection. You give me the plot.
That's true.
Doesn't
But
have
also
to,
one
it doesn't have to
important
be
thing when it
action.
comes to mystery that there also that when the mystery you start picking that mystery apart and apart, that's one thing that you also and on the second viewing when you watch it that there should be when you watch a mystery or read a mystery novel, you see how you watch as their as the mystery is unresolved and it's revealed at the end. And the second viewing, you watch again those same scenes to see where
The idea where the person was moving along and stuff like that. That's what I want.
And the strings that connected everything,
Yes.
and the dots and all those things.
Right. You don't want to figure it out before the end. So if he can do a really good film noir of Batman and still give social commentary and all these other things that go on with, you know, and that is what I would love. That it doesn't have to be action packed. It's a mystery. It pulls you in because of the mystery. And, you know, we can see some things with Batman, maybe some new things with Batman, etc. But at the end of the day, let it be a psychological kind of mystery thriller, kind of like Seven and all those other things. Even what do you call that thing? Silence of the Lambs and all that stuff. Even though I think with Silence of the Lambs, the mystery wasn't so much the guy who was doing the bad thing. It was how he was able to do the bad thing. But I would prefer if they kind of sort of have us looking at this phantasm, sort of like this villain who we don't know who this villain is. And we have to figure it out. You know, that would be the classic kind of film noir drama sort of thing that's up in the air and everybody's trying to figure out who it is.
Yeah.
You know,
there was
fantastic.
Yeah, you know, when Gotham was on its first season, that I wrote one of those my fan fictions that I wrote back then was something of a well, I tried to make it something of a hardcore was like a mystery detective story that followed an amnesiastic guy who was he was like an altered carbon hired as a private investigator to investigate the murder of the Waynes because the client who hired him was the sister of Martha Kent, Martha Wayne.
Martha Wayne or Martha Kent?
Yeah, Martha Wayne's sister, whose side of the family never liked Thomas Wayne.
Wow.
Yeah, and so they tried to throw shade that Thomas Wayne was not the virtuous doctor that he was, and so on and so on. It was based on another comic that I'm not going to spoil the end because the main character who was the hired and his amnesia came from the fact that he was also there when the Wayne killing happened. He was on the other side of the street on another alley, and he had been attacked. He was bleeding, and he was trying to get out of the alley to get people to help him. And then the Wayne murder happened. Everyone's attention was on there, and when everyone was looking there and no one was looking at him, he got hit by a car and was put in a hospital where he was then found and hired to do the detective work by the Martha's sister.
Wow, interesting. I like that story, and must read it sometime that you had. So
yeah, you got. put it down. It's called Conspiracy Theory on Gotham City. It's on my fanfiction.net.
One. Now I'm gonna have to wrap up. I'm so sorry. It's getting really nice and warm, but there's a lot of people who are talking here. You have Bat City stuff. It says like the Winter Soldier under the red hood. DC's Winter Soldier, and he also says, but more fancy. I would say that you know,
actually, under the red hood and Winter Soldier or something about. They came actually in the comics at the same time. Jason Todd came back as the Red Hood, and Bucky Barnes came back as the Winter Soldier at the same time. Both of them were thought to have been dead. And actually, here in JLA Avengers, there's this scene of Batman and Captain America in the Batcave, talking with each other about the other here.
Right.
Here, as you can see, is here Captain America looking at Jason Todd's costume and asking if about Batman losing a partner, and Batman in the way he does answered yes, he did. And that's Captain America seeing the similarity between himself and Batman in Batman losing Jason and him losing Bucky.
Right.
And surprise, surprise, both of them came back from the dead not long after this comic came out.
You see, and that's the beauty of, again, bringing things together. I think these crossover comics bring the commonalities that these both universes are striving to do. So brilliant stuff again on your part right there. Again, R2. Guys, I got to wrap it up. I know it's getting hot. I see a lot of you people making a lot of comments out here, but I got to go. I got to go work. It's been nice. It was swell talking to you guys. Try to get another hangout tomorrow with you guys talking about some other topic. I don't know what it's going to be. Maybe it's be one. You can suggest a topic that we talk about next time. Bat City stuff. Nimish PK, R2 Lemonin, Tommy Temper, and Dave Ethan and Company Limited. You guys really made the day here. This was great. We have a community here online. It's nice. So many of you make this thing much better than if just one person's talking. I'll shut up much more, R2, and let you talk much more. I feel like I talk too much on this podcast, but it's all good. Next podcast, I'll adapt to suit. But I really love your input. Again, if you guys have not seen R2's work, tell them where to find it again, R2. Just call it out.
Fanfiction.net. My pen name is Suomalainen92.
That's right. So you guys go check out his stuff. He's a crossover fantasy fiction novel storyteller, short storyteller. It's really fantastic. You should check out his work, as well as I just like to thank Tommy Temper for telling us about another sci-fi story I should check out, which is let me see if I can find Carbon. That's right. It's what carbon?
Altered Carbon.
Altered Carbon. That's right.
Put it in the comments.
Right. Altered Carbon. So just put it down in the comment section below. Don't forget to put your link also, R2, down in the comment section below. If it doesn't come, just let me know and I'll try and get that link back, because there was another video with it. And also, last but not least, looking forward to more in the DCU. Of course, we're going to talk about other movies. We can talk about Star Wars, Star Trek. I mean, we're going to start talking about some of the favorite movies of the 80s, the 90s, even some television series from the 80s and 90s. I love a lot of science fiction, so I'll be talking a lot about science fiction movies. I don't know if some of you guys, when were you born, R2, in the 90s or the 80s? Or the
1992.
1992. Great. So you would know about Quantum Leap. You know
Quantum Leap. I'll put the Hangouts link and you can add it in the comments.
Okay, so we'll talk about it more in the comment section. You guys have a blessed one. Again, Nimish PK, shout out to you. Bat City stuff, Space Jam. Okay, Space Jam was all right with Michael Jordan. You had a Quantum Leap. We had Weird Science. We had Xena Warrior Princess, Hercules. We had the Pretender. I don't know if you guys know about the Pretender. You know, the 80s, the 90s, the 70s. Man, they had some really good sci-fi stuff. Okay, so we'll talk about it in the comment section. In the comment section, you can talk about all the sci-fi movies you really like. What do you think are all-time classics when it comes to science fiction and also fantasy? What are your favorite? Miami Vice, yeah, dude. Oh, Miami Vice was dope. Simon and Simon, for those of you in the 80s. Man, so, and you guys also, R2, could you refer to some of the movies or TV shows in your country, Finland, that you think you saw in Finland that you know that you could tell people about? Because that would be really awesome as well. Fill out the comment section with all kinds of movies that you like. R2, you get the last word.
Okay, a movie that can come out is would be Vares detective series. That's one thing. Like the first Vares private detective movie, that was from was based on a novel by Ilkka Renes, Yellow Widow.
Sweet.
Yeah, and there's the Frozen Angel. Those are the only ones played where the character of Vares was played by Juha Veijer, and then he was played by Antti Reini.
Cool. So put
those are detective comic, those kind of detective stories, hardcore detective stories. Jussi Vares, the Vares series by Ilkka Renes.
Also, you guys can recommend books. I'm not really into magic and things, so I haven't even watched Harry Potter series. Just to be honest with you guys. So you guys be like, "What? You don't watch Harry Potter series? You're missing out something." I'm like, "Nah, I don't watch those things particularly." Yeah, I did watch.
The DCEU stories that I wrote are actually crossovers with Harry Potter.
Well, hey, I might still read that stuff though. And also I wanted to say I did watch Lord of the Rings. It does have marriage, does have magic and stuff in it, so it's kind of like, what are you doing? You're contradicting yourself. Well, I don't know, man. I don't. But I never really watched Harry Potter stuff because I was not really into witches and warlocks, things like that. Even though we had Gandalf in Lord of the Rings and all that stuff, it's crazy. You know, it's kind of funny how I seem to be inconsistent, but I really try to stay away from those kinds of things, which is weird, but it is what it is, I guess. I guess because of my religious background and how I was raised, I was like, nah, I'm not really into the witches thing. But it doesn't necessarily mean they don't have good values or stuff in them. It's just I don't necessarily. I don't know why. I just don't. So I just wanted to let you know that. But in the comment section, fill it up with the movies you really liked and the movies that had a big impact on you. I'll try and put in my share. I'll see you guys tonight. I may put up something else online. And live long and prosper. How do you do that sign? Let me see. I love Star Trek. And of course, we all love Spock. You guys, see if you can do a talk to before we go. You got it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Blessings, man. Have a good one. I'm out of here.
Okay.